has good technique, he will be elite. If his technique becomes great, not just good, then he's a Hall of Famer.
Going down again. It's Q. Len Williams.
Fighting through contact, fighting through offensive line, being a double team, multiple moves stacked into one, just a play of pure domination. This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
And welcome back, Kyle J. Smith. How are you doing?
Oh, the full Twitter handle out there. Pretty good, Blewett. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right. I'm excited. It feels like, I don't know why, maybe because I've been busy this month, but it feels like we haven't done a live stream in a while, even though literally it's been a month.
It's been over a month. That's probably part of the reason why. It's been like a month and almost a week, because the last one must have been on like May 1st or 2nd, and now it's the 7th of June. So it's definitely been
directly after the draft. It was like, it was May 1st, I think, or May 2nd.
Yeah. And the gap between like the previous two ones was less than a month. So when you think of it like that, like we had one that was less than a month and now it's one that's over a month. It's definitely a bigger gap for sure.
Yeah. A lot to talk about. Eagle thing. I saw you in the chat. I don't know why you're saying early surprise, because this is the first Monday of every month. I think you should know better.
Especially since he's a guy who watches every stream.
Yeah, what the hell, Eagle? But no, a lot going on. There are places who don't have anything to talk about. One, based on the film, we have a lot to talk about because we did a pretty early dive into the film of these draft picks. We're going to get back into the draft picks. Not a lot, kind of just quicker thoughts on or updated thoughts on the draft picks. We'll go with Kyle. I feel like Kyle is a better speaker than I will, so we'll hit Kyle first on those. And then we're going to talk about competitions. We're going to talk about Darnold's team versus Wilson's team. We're going to talk about free agents. We're going to talk about a Julio trade. We're going to talk about re-signing May and Tavon Austin and Crowder and P. Ryan and all this stuff. So we have plenty to get to. Other than that, New York sports news, there's really not much, right? The Islanders are down 2-1, right? The Rangers weren't in there. Oh, wait a second. The Knicks were eliminated. They only won one game. 4th seed, and the Nets without Harden in game 1 against the Bucks still pulled off the dubs. So Kyle, thoughts on your Knicks? I guess we're not going to a game.
At least I'm not going to have to pay for a ticket for you. That's the only relief that happened. I mean, I was a little relieved by that, but yeah, they had an awful showing, and maybe the Hawks are actually better than a lot of people thought as well. But I mean, honestly though, like, I think the Hawks played pretty well. I didn't watch a lot. I only watched part of game 4. It's the only game that I partially watched. But the Knicks also played like crap. Seemed like every time that I saw them, with a wide open 3, they were missing it in that game. So, and I'm not a basketball guy, but the Knicks did not deserve to go far. But, maybe those Hawks will give your Nets a run for their money. But,
yeah. No, I'm more
it
afraid.
Seems like your Nets got a legit shot to win their first ever title.
I'm more afraid of the Sixers than the Hawks, to be completely honest, because the Hawks don't really have a ton of weapons minus Trae Young. We're not really going to get into that a lot, but I'm worried about the Harden thing right now. I think we can make it to the finals without Harden, but I'm still worried if they don't have him, because he re-aggravated the hamstring that kept him out for like a month earlier in the season in game 1.
How's Durant been this year? Because this is just, he had a big injury last year, right?
He's top 3, top 5 player again. He's that level.
By the way, I like Kevin Durant because I'm a Longhorns fan, and it's the only major sports team that I root for in my lifetime that brought me a championship.
You want to know something funny too? I actually don't like Durant because of the whole thing that happened with the Warriors when he was up. They were up 3-1, right, on the Warriors, and then when he was with the Thunder, and then they came back and won the series, and then he left the next year to go to the Warriors. So I actually didn't like him at all.
Yeah.
But if he brings the Nets a championship, that's cool. And it was funny to the Knicks fans. I think I shit on the Knicks, like the Hamza video, and I got like a quick 10 downvotes on that video. I was like, God damn, the Knicks fans are not happy.
But that's a pretty shitty thing to do, to downvote your content on your video, hurt you in the algorithms. Even if the content of your video is good, just because you said a little offhand comment about something totally unrelated.
What's up, Eagle? What's up, Shadow? I see Chris in here. Shadow, I just checked while Kyle was speaking. I don't think your shuffle answer was commit or really answered that correctly, to be completely honest. We'll discuss that in a little bit. He wants to know what a shuffle technique is. And there's a difference between like shuffle bail and then shuffling at the line of scrimmage, which I can get into later. And then somebody says, go NY, go NY, go. He's like messaged me on Twitter and he said that I don't say his name right, but his name is literally go NY, go NY, go. And he says I say it wrong. So I don't know how I'm supposed to say that. He says does he want
you to say New York instead of NY?
I guess, but his handle is NY. Joe refuses to pronounce my handle because the way it should, you can't say go NY, go NY, go because it's a Knicks chant. One, I've never heard of that, and two, I'm reading your handle. So you have to clarify because I don't care. I'm chanting for a team who is sitting on their couch right now.
He might not be able to make it in New York because he might have character limits there. But
you can put it in the chat.
Yeah, he could.
So let's get. I don't really hate the Knicks people. I only hate their fans. So I actually appreciate the Knicks and like their grit. I knew they weren't going to get far into the playoffs because trying hard doesn't get you a lot of wins in the playoffs. It gets you wins in the regular season. So I had a feeling they weren't going to win. But I just hate the little brother thing of New York where, there's no Nets fans at all. But the Nets got more viewers than the Knicks this year per game, which I get is because of superstar talent and stuff like that. But
and I get that because I gotta be honest, that's the main thing. I hate the Giants more than I hate the Patriots, more than I hate the Dolphins. And I know that's a little bit illogical and irrational because we only play them once every 4 years. Well, I guess it's once every 3 years now with the 17 games versus playing the other teams twice a year. But the thing that made me hate the Giants the most is all these Giants fans around when I was growing up that always used to say that shit because I was a Jets fan. So yeah, I get why you hate it as a Nets fan. And hypocrite that I am, I use the same argument against you.
And you'd think Jets fans who live in the area like know that from the Knicks, or Mets fans from the Yankees, but then they still pull it off against Brooklyn Nets fans. So it's like, what do you not understand? But it is what it is. That's like, we hate, whatever. We're not gonna get into that. People talk about the Julio trade in the chat. We'll get into the Julio trade in a little bit. But Kyle, let's do some draft picks. We're gonna do this relatively quick because I think people are already almost pretty tired about hearing just general talk about the draft class, even though this channel, specifically me, have been pumping out a shitload. Our next one's going to be on Yeboah. And Eagle said something in the chat too, that this is the second week. But it's still the first Monday, the second week of May. So, but yeah, next review is Yeboah. We already did 2 Wilsons. We did Michael Carter. We did Pinnock and Hamza and ABT. We did a ton of them, so more to come. UDFAs are coming. I still have to do Eccles, Jonathan Marshall, 2 more parts of Zach Wilson, and then we were doing every single free agent who's going to make an impact. Like I'm even doing Dan Feeney now and Ronald Blair and Tevin Coleman because I'm moving at a good pace. So somebody says that MC2 is really impressed in OTAs. Do we have to talk about the Julio trade? No, not really. We're going to talk about it a tiny bit in terms of, 1, why both of us know the Jets should not have done it, and 2, how it impacts the schedule. And that's really about it. We'll hit it pretty quick. But Kyle, going with the draft class, do we need to hit on anything regarding Zach Wilson? Have you watched any more of him? You have any thoughts?
No. I haven't watched any more of him. I mean, okay. I watched a lot, and I'll watch more once you put out, your parts 3 and 4, right? You got 4 total, right? Coming out.
Yeah. 4 total. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I watched it for those who haven't been listening and stuff. I watched 14 games, 8 from his 2020 season, 6 from his 2019 coach's film. And I really tried to watch and kind of get my own ideas and thoughts about him before I started, because it's so easy to kind of just jump upon what other people are seeing and thinking. It's really easy to get into groupthink. And then once I got a firm grip of him, I started watching other people's reviews and stuff. And then I started watching yours and stuff. So really, I feel like I have a good idea of what he is, but I will watch your stuff when you put it out, but I haven't watched any more of him since then.
Yeah. I don't know why this came into the top of my head. You ever see Mr. Deeds?
That sounds so familiar.
Not Mr. Deeds. Not Mr.
Oh,
Deeds.
Little Nicky.
Little Nicky. You ever see Little Nicky?
Yes.
Remember the scene where the devil is really the priest and he's giving like the sermon and he's standing on a block of ice because his feet are so hot?
I must remember it. It's been like,
I hope a lot of people get that reference, but I'm explaining anyway. I am suffering for you guys right now because my room, I have like a general AC thing, whatever. I have a window open. It's hot as crap in New Jersey because I don't want to turn the fan on because people are going to get mad at me for the fan. Somebody's like, I can't watch the show if there's a fan in the background. So I'm on the struggle bus. My feet are freaking on fire. It's hot in here.
Man.
But with the Zach Wilson thing, the only thing you can really say is like with OTAs and stuff, like you have to be, we're not overly impressed. In terms of like anything that's coming out. I know that Sabo has spoke about how the ball just looks different coming off of his hand, the quick decision making, etc. Having some good practices and things like that. The thing I like the most about it is just the fact that he's going out with his teammates to the Islanders games, hanging out with, Michael Carter and Pinnock and whoever it was by the pool, and they're FaceTiming. Like, you like to see that camaraderie. We didn't really see that a lot of that with Sam Darnold. I'm sure there was some of it behind the scenes. Maybe he just isn't as expressive with it or whatever. But it is a little thumbs up plus that he's hanging out with his teammates and stuff like that. Other than that, there's really not much we can take from him. AVT, have you learned anything about AVT since our last live stream?
Quick comment about what you just said about Wilson. I mean, listen, if there's a reason why a quarterback is almost always a captain on any NFL team. I mean, as long as they have like an established starter, like there's a reason why Derek Carr is a captain, right? Because the quarterback, he's the guy who needs to know everybody's responsibility and stuff. He needs to be a good leader. And there is something to be said for a guy who's willing to go around and pal around with his guys and, really get into it. That's what makes offensive linemen, when they see someone go on top of their quarterback, that's what makes an offensive lineman want to fight for them, like literally get into a fist fight for them. Yeah. So that does matter, at least somewhat. I mean, people might overhype that, but it matters, at least it matters a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said to start a GoFundMe for an AC unit. I have an AC unit, but I just bought a house and I still have to do the whole AC in the house. So I have units, but I don't have a central air, which I'm getting. It's just, it's waiting. If you guys don't care, I'm going to turn that fan on in a couple of minutes. But yeah, like
I don't care.
Kyle, it's again, and obviously it's not that drastic of a difference. But like, are you more willing to jump into a fight for somebody you kind of know, or like your buddy? Like that's kind of what it is, and they might try harder and things like that for him, and it builds a camaraderie. Like, you'd like to see that. Did you hit on AVT? I don't think
I didn't hit on AVT yet.
Yeah.
I really liked his film. And by the way, so obviously a lot of people that are watching this right now are not members of JetX. And I know that obviously there's a good amount of you that are as well. Joe Blewett put out 2.5 hours worth of film on AVT. I think it's probably the longest besides Wilson that you put out. Am I right about that? Longest besides Wilson?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Very detailed. And like I told Joe in a private message that I sent to him, there's brilliant people out there that do good offensive line work, most notably Brandon Thorne and stuff. But Brandon might know overall more things than Joe Blewett when it comes to offensive line play specifically, maybe, I don't know. But like Joe goes into a lot of depth. So you're going to see things in that review that you won't see someone like Brandon Thorne, who knows a tremendous amount and who has done AVT breakdowns and stuff. Like little simple things like, how nuanced AVT is with, just throwing his drag hand, and then he sees someone at the split second come into his peripheral vision coming from the other side, and then he throws the other hand at the last minute. And when Blewett talks about, so Blewett's got this line where they always say football is a game of inches. Blewett will say football is a game of millimeters. Just that little thing where you can get your hand on someone and just impede their progress just a little bit. You just slow them down just a little bit. Even if you can't like throw a depleting block, but just slows them down a little bit, that could give the quarterback an extra split second to make a pass or something like that. And AVT, while he's not doing knockout blocks, you're not going to see him throwing guys all over the field like Mekhi Becton. You're going to see a lot of those little types of things in Joe Blewett's film breakdown and stuff. And, dude, you want to talk about a guy who's like, and he's a lot, at this point, he's a lot better in pass pro, especially as a guard, than he is as a run blocker. But the dude is really, really good at like passing off stunts. He's really good at that.
It's I don't want to say that word. It is excellent. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's not even like he barely gets there. Like he's there, like waiting, like he could put a hot pocket in the microwave and eat it before you even get there on some of these stunts. Like he is top notch. There were some things I like talked about in the review, so I didn't really like learn too much, but like, coming to block a little bit high, like he's not going to down block a guy and push him all the way down the line of scrimmage. But in terms of like, what you're talking about, the catch hand reach thing on the second level, like definitely mentioned some of that. Talked about some of the things and how it reflects to Benton's scheme and how he'd expect him to do it, which we'll get into. And that's why it's important to watch that stuff so you know what they're asked to do. Because if you don't know what they're asked to do or what the play is, then how can you grade a play? So we talk about some of that in AVT, but yeah, and I said it in the review too, like his film is so good, it's boring to a certain extent because he just doesn't really mess up. Like there's things that he could do to be an elite player, but in terms of, I'm going to say any pick I've ever watched, I'm trying to think, maybe other than Quinn Williams, I am so confident in him at least being above average out of anybody I've pretty much ever watched. Like, do you see any way that he's not at least a plus starter? Like, I don't see there's a way that he's not going to be at least pretty good.
I mean, the only thing would be like maybe like injuries, which offensive linemen, when injuries pile up with them, you can see them do like they could just go like that almost more than any other position, maybe other than running back. You can see a drastic drop off or corner with like injuries, but I mean, he doesn't have any that we know of and stuff, but yeah. So going to your point about the safeness of the prospect, I mean, tons of offensive linemen bust. And one thing that I firmly stand by is you think about, and no one has ever disagreed with me on this point. All the football conversations I've ever had with anyone, there is so much interior defensive line talent throughout the league, like every team has several quality guys interior. And think about just the Jets, like how many quality interior defensive linemen we have, whether or not they're Pro Bowl type of players, but they're good, solid players that can make a roster and can make an impact on any given week. But you can't really think of a tremendous amount of interior offensive linemen that are like really plus quality starters. So if you can get an above average year in, year out interior offensive lineman, because there are so many teams that are trotting absolutely horrible interior offensive linemen out there. The Dan Feeney's of the world. Dan Feeney started 40 something games or 30 something games for the Chargers. And mostly just a bunch of it is horrific play. I mean, that's not uncommon. Like we had Brian Winters and all these other guys.
Look at what Elfline just got signed for.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, so even if AVT never becomes, I'm trying to think of the dude from the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know. I can't think of his name at the moment. Even if he never becomes anything near that, like if he becomes Joe Thuney, which he can definitely be. Joe Thuney was a 3rd round draft pick. Now, granted, he got great coaching in New England, Dante Scarnecchia. Like if he becomes Joe Thuney, like that is an absolutely awesome draft pick. And he can very realistically hit that expectation for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody asked about the Eagle asked about the top 3 remaining players. Will there be any holdouts? I have no idea. It's about contract language, like how much is guaranteed and stuff like that. It's all the same amount though. So I'm hoping there's not going to be any holdouts. I don't think there is going to be. People still talk about the fan. The fan is going to go on in a second. MM said the AVT review is awesome. Love being a JetX subscriber. Appreciate you, MM. Eagle can't wait to timestamp weekly again. We appreciate that as well. Somebody is asking about the Jets thing. The Jets thing's come out the 24th, right? The documentary?
June, yeah.
June 24th, yeah. All 4 parts are being released. So thankfully I already looked. I was like, I don't have work that day. I was like, yeah, I'm watching all 4 parts right in a row. I going to have to. But yeah, if you can get and there's a lot of bad interior offensive line play in general in the NFL right now. So if you can get a guy who, in my opinion, like I said, I don't like to plant my flag on a lot of things. Or my flag, I don't know if I said that right. I would plant my flag on he's going to be a top 15 guard in the league. I'm pretty confident in saying
in year
that.
one.
Not in year one. Eventually, okay. I'm saying year 2 or 3 because there's still some things you have to learn, hand placement, like things you might not get away with at this level, immediately. But I'm pretty confident saying he's going to be pretty good. Elijah Moore.
When I watched your film review, I thought you meant in year 1 you thought he'd be top 15, and I might have given you some pushback on that, but I'll give you absolutely no pushback that by year 2 he'd be easily top 15. I would think.
Yeah, for sure, and he has that versatility too, which makes him obviously more valuable. And it's funny, like whoever came out, whoever that douchey media member was, he's like, oh, the Jets traded, or not the Jets. He didn't specifically mention the Jets. He said like, oh, AVT got traded for a first round pick and 2/3. But Julio get traded for this. I was like, no, the Jets traded up a couple of picks, traded 2/3 and got back a 4th. That's not the same thing at all. Like, at least if you're going to be stupid, at least word your thing like correctly and still be stupid. But yeah, that was really bad that came out and that he said that. Whatever he said that name was, something like NFL Network or ESPN or whoever the hell that was.
Was this a recent thing or was this from a couple of weeks ago?
No, this was like 2 days ago. I'm searching.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know what you're talking about then. Because I saw Chris Trapasso from CBS, who does NFL draft stuff for CBS, giving the Jets some shit for, it wasn't really good value when you think about it, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, number stuff. I think it was like Greg Rosenthal or something like that. Somebody in the chat put it in there. I think.
Well, maybe he did too, but I know Trapasso definitely said something about that.
Elijah Moore pick. Did you learn anything about that? I know you watched the film. I know you've watched pretty much all the film reviews.
I did watch. I watched everyone that you put out so far.
What's the thought on the Moore pick? And then I'm gonna turn on the fan real quick.
I love the Moore pick. I don't know of any Jets fan that doesn't like that pick, to be honest. And we're Jets fans. We're homers. We have a built-in bias. I know, but dude, I'll say it and I'll say it again. They're finally building it right. And dude, Moore, when they did the Moore pick, I think my reaction was somewhat similar to yours. And like, we didn't know a whole lot about him. It's not like we watched a whole lot. And when they draft a guy that early, 34, second pick in the second round, and you look at the measurables, 5'9", 180, you're like, okay, he's got blazing speed, but I don't want a burner who's really small, but he's much more than that. He's much, much more than just a burner. Like, whatever, what Hollywood Brown, Hollywood Brown for the Baltimore Ravens is mostly a burner.
Yeah.
He's not nearly as complete as Elijah Moore. And what's Elijah Moore's biggest knock? Okay. He doesn't give a lot of effort in run blocking. Okay. If that's listen, run blocking is important. All right. We're going to stress how much it helps the offense.
Don't you dare shit on Rodgers for run blocking.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, come on, out of all things, wouldn't you rather have better hands or better yards after the catch ability?
Yeah, of course.
Or smoother route running, Yeah. But I mean, the dude is really good, like all the way around. And again, that's another really high floor player. I mean, could he ever, in terms of size and stature, and he's definitely got way more vertical speed than like an Antonio Brown. And he's not nearly as physical as Antonio Brown, but like it's not super often that you see a really small guy become that elite of a top 5 year in, year out receiver. Antonio Brown did do it. And, Antonio Brown was a 6th round draft pick. Could Moore, be that good? I mean, yeah, but the more promising thing is he's got a really high floor. Like, what's the chances of this player busting? Like, it's got to be really, I would assume, pretty low. Right?
Yeah, minus and I think everything's prefaced by like injuries. Of course, injuries could be, you could bust out. A couple of those guys actually for the Jets, like recently, I think Devin Smith and D Milner would have been relatively decent players for the Jets if they didn't bust out because of injury. But he's another like really safe guy. Like again, like before the draft, not all we talked about, but some of the stuff we talked about was the Jets have 2 holes in the receiving core: speed, which people are asking is speed or burner speed. So yeah, he's talking about a burner. He means like a speed guy, just a speed guy. So yeah, they needed that speed guy, that deep threat, because they didn't really have that truly on the team. And then they needed that yak guy. And they filled both those roles with Elijah Moore. Like the only thing that I see him not necessarily being able to do at the NFL level, maybe, is win some contested catches, literally just because of his size. That's it.
But they already have a guy who's a monster in that area.
So they have two guys pretty much. And
you wouldn't call Davis a monster at getting contested
over the middle. Okay. I would say.
Okay, fair.
Not vertical, but yeah. So there's nothing he can't do in terms of like his skill set. Again, just his size, like, versus a bigger, really good press corner. Does he have the strength of a DeAndre Hopkins to get off of it all the time? No, but he has more lateral athleticism. He's more quick than DeAndre Hopkins, so he has to get around that. In terms of like blocking, like, is he going to be able to crack a safety or a linebacker all the time? No, not necessarily. Is he going to be able to win deep versus, guys who are 6'2", 6'3"? No, not necessarily. But like, in terms of him being well-rounded and like a pretty safe prospect, Moore, I think it's gonna be pretty damn good. To be completely honest, and it's funny. I think I said this on one of these streams. It's like every single year, every time a Jets player gets traded, never buying a jersey, not happening. This year it was Darnold, gone, or a couple of years ago, Darnold's gone, Bell gone. I almost bought Mosley. Thank God I didn't. I think he's gonna be pretty good, and I've been on that train for a little bit. I think he's gonna be better than people think he is. There's been some positive reports about him, but I said he's always been a smart guy, not a physical guy. So unless his smart's completely dissipated, I see him being pretty effective for the Jets. And then the other one was Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams, I think.
Dude,
So,
I can see why you bought an Adams and a Darnold.
Why'd you buy a Bell?
Dude, I don't get that though.
With that being
and I love
said,
Bell. I love Bell.
With that being said, a White Wilson's on the way and a Black Elijah Moore is on the way. And there's a couple of guys I was going to buy, and some people asked about the whole Becton thing. We'll talk about the Becton thing. There's a reason I was a little bit hesitant to buy his jersey in terms of long-term stuff. We'll get into the plantar fasciitis and all that stuff. But the new jersey numbers, the single digit thing, I had to get a Moore in black. So I'm pretty pumped about Moore.
That is cool.
Another guy, like watching his film, I think it's safe to say in that review, I gushed over him, Kyle.
Oh yeah. Big time.
Big time gushed over.
Almost as much as you gushed over Jamie and Sherwood.
Okay. Let's dude, people like, and I think you could back me up. Like people, and somebody said this in the chat too. Verge Tips is something about Joe is that guy that I'm glad I'm on his side, not his enemy. Nothing's going to happen to you, but you're going to get called out, especially by me or Kyle on this show, or Kyle or I. But I'm never going to bend my opinion to make the fans happy. Like if I came out here and said, oh, this guy is awesome, that guy is awesome, then guess what? I lose credibility when they suck. So, you don't want to take too many misses. Like you're going to miss. But never this channel. If you're expecting me to gloat over every single guy, you're going to be disappointed. Sherwood's one of them. Somebody said before, I like Pinnock's hands, not his feet. For the most part, I agree with that. Yeboah, you might be a little bit disappointed. I like him. There's a lot he needs to work on. I could tell you, which we'll get into later, Isaiah Dunn, big thumbs up for me so far. I'm about to plant my flag on that guy and say he's going to be a contributor.
I don't even know who that is, so I'm going to have to watch your review.
Dude, I'm pretty sold on him being a contributor as a UDFA. But with Elijah Moore, I think he's going to be legit. He's an all around guy. There's the route running, the speed, the yak ability. So I'm pretty excited about that one.
My favorite part about him is just how effortless he catches the ball with his hands, arms extended, and then just immediately transitions to the run. He is very good at that.
Shadow asked, do you think the Jets wide receiver core has all the necessary traits implemented, or are we missing that one wide receiver type? Kyle, I'll throw it to you. The only thing I would say is that true, like number one, like I don't think they have that top tier, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones type.
No, they don't. Not at this point.
Conversation later.
Listen, Devontae is a second round pick. So to think that one of these Jets guys couldn't eventually get there, they could. And Devontae, even his first couple of years, he wasn't a world beater, and maybe he dealt with some injuries early in his career. I can't remember for sure, but it took time, and he also has a world-class quarterback throwing him the ball. So but I'll say this: my dad, he's a Chiefs fan, lifelong Chiefs fan. All right, he suffered
lifelong Chiefs fan as of 2017-18.
Bullshit. Yeah, I got to show you a picture of my dad's basement. He's got all this Chiefs memorabilia up. I posted a picture on Twitter back when the Chiefs made the Super Bowl, not this past year, but the year before, of me and my older brother and my dad meeting Len Dawson when we were really young kids. My dad went to, get some autograph signings. He even got a Montana autograph as well. Anyway, but what the point is my dad has been, for a long time, has been bitching that the Chiefs don't have a big bodied receiver. They got a bunch of speed guys, Mecole Hardman and Tyreek Hill. Even Sammy Watkins wasn't a big receiver. I mean, he was 6'1", 215, which, is decent size, but he's not a big dude. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, they really need a big guy, a big receiver. I was like, well, they got Kelsey, Dad, and he gets the ball a lot. And he's like, well, they still need a big receiver. I was like, okay, Dad. But, if you want to talk about like all the different elements, the Jets, Tyreek Hill is a true number one receiver. I mean, maybe you don't want to him run, like the complete route tree and really balance out the route tree. Like there's certain things you really want him to do more than others, but he can kind of do everything, and he's that good. And Kelsey's obviously a true number one tight end, but I will say that like, I feel like just in terms of receivers, the Jets do have like more of a balance in terms of what certain players do well in certain areas that they excel, even more so than the Chiefs. Do you agree with me with that, or am I just bullshitting?
Yeah, no, it's like, again, they don't have like that true number one. I think Mims could develop into that. I think even more could develop into like that true number one type guy. Even though I think that's an overrated, term, to be completely honest, but
yeah,
we're actually going to get into a discussion later if we have time in terms of like Jets receiver core versus the NFL. Not necessarily for this year, but like going forward, whose would you want? Because I think the Jets are pretty high on that list, to be completely honest, in terms of some of their young talent. K Delgado said, I appreciate the Sherwood knowledge because I don't love him like that. Yeah, watch the review. I for a 5th round pick, he plays like a 5th round pick sometimes. It is what it is. I think he's pretty limited athletically. I don't think, he might have a relatively higher floor because of some of his knowledge, but I don't think he's ever going to be like a good player. I think he'd be like a role player, to be completely honest. Somebody's talking about the Rashid Jr. review. It's coming out relatively soon. It hasn't been out yet. Somebody else has done an outside quarterback or cornerback. He's an outside and an inside.
What college is he from?
Oregon State. Same one as Hamilcar or Rashid Jr. So if you're watching Oregon State film, it's obviously just high view, end zone view. It's pretty easy to watch him. So I watched 3 games of him so far. UCLA. Let's see. I forget. I watched UCLA and Stanford and Utah. I think Utah, he got injured in it, but through 3 games, I am very impressed. Like I like him more than Eccles at this point. I still have to get into a decent amount of his, but moving on past Elijah Moore, Michael Carter. Learn anything else new about him?
You talking about the running back, Michael Carter?
We are going in order.
Okay. Well, I think I got to make sure, right?
I didn't say MC squared or Michael Carter, whatever.
So apparently he's blowing. Is it him or the other Michael Carter that's turning heads at training camp?
Both. Apparently both are turning heads. I know Carter II's been getting some reps with the starters, which happens a lot anyway, to be completely honest, especially they shuffle the deck to see where guys fit.
Can you put on play 14 of Michael Carter, please?
Play 14 of Michael off the top of your dome?
Well, I looked it up just before we started. Please play it for us.
Okay. Against Florida State?
Isn't it Boston College? It's Boston College.
This? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, it is. It's Same.
Yeah, play it. All right. Pause it for a moment. You see number 8? Go back. You see him on the outside right here trying to make a tackle. He's coming in left side of the screen.
You clearly know him.
That was my student for 3 years. Well,
tell him he's got to cheat outside a little bit more.
He might get mad at me, but
if he's watching, but if not, I can talk shit, but listen, you're playing at Boston College, so you beat me out. So
yeah, I wonder if he's gonna get a shot in the league. I don't know.
Hopefully,
so I teach in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they've had several people go. We actually had one of Elizabeth's players on our roster recently. Why am I forgetting his name right now? But he was a running back and he was a UDFA, and he didn't make the team or anything, but he was at least on our, he was on our team for a little bit in like training camp or whatever. And then PJ Walker, he actually started a game for the Panthers last year.
Yeah.
He went to Temple. He was a quarterback for the high school I teach at. So, but yeah, that kid was really, really good in high school.
Just to get to some questions in the chat before you get to the other Michael Carter the first. Somebody said Eccles is a bit of a head scratcher. One, technique wise, I know he just went to corner. He was a wide receiver. I forget until what point, but he's relatively new at corner. Somebody said, Dr. Kassassin or whatever said, I thought we were getting a free t-shirt if we beat you. We do not have, and you and Kyle tied. I think Kyle technically got the score closer. So Kyle, if anything, gets something, but Kassassin, once we open up the store again, I promise to send you a free t-shirt. You get a free t-shirt on me. Also this year, we're going to do those pick'ems again. Kyle will probably do 10 people again. The first 10 people to sign up for every week. If you listen to the show, end of the show, last 5 minutes, I'm going to give games. And I will at least at the minimum give a free jersey to somebody. That's going to be at least the minimum giveaway. So if you listen every week, let me know, email me. I'm not going to open it up now, but I'll give
that was kind of a shitty congratulations to the champ.
Yeah,
like
no,
you
I'm not
just really
congratulating.
kind of like, oh, technically Kyle won. Like,
Okay, so continue Michael Carter though.
by the way, I tried to buy a T-shirt from the site too, and I realized, like,
Yeah,
where's the
we're
shop
we're
at?
we're trying to do it the right way. Behind the scenes, a little bit. A lot of people toe that line a little bit too close with getting their stuff like copyrighted.
Copyright.
So
Yeah,
we don't want
gotcha,
to piss the Jets off in any type of way. So we took it down early. We're gonna try to talk to them and see what we could
Gotcha,
do to not piss them off because we want connections. You know, we don't want to.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, honestly, I think Michael Carter really easily has a best shot to be the Jets' best running back this year. More so than Piron, even Tevin Coleman, like who, if he can get back to, what he was, even though he's got familiarity in the scheme, he's an older running back. He's on the last legs of his career. Carter's going to be good. Is he going to be great? I think you might've said like he could be like a running back type of one. What is he? What is a true running back one in the NFL nowadays?
Yeah.
I would only consider like the guys like Derrick Henry and like Christian McCaffrey, like guys who like you want on the field for like the vast majority of snaps. Yeah, like Barkley, like a true running back one. Otherwise, most teams is just totally running back by committee, So, but he be the best running back on the Jets roster for sure. But I think this is another pretty safe player, and
yeah,
it almost makes you wonder. Like, I definitely think he can get 1,000 scrimmage yards this year. Not that this is a stat show, but in total, because he's very balanced in the pass game or whatever. I like how he runs wheel routes down the sideline and things like that.
Yeah. So, and there was definitely some like misconceptions about him to me. Like a lot of people are like, oh, elite speed. I don't see the elite speed. The elite shiftiness is there for sure. And there's always people, oh, well, he avoids penetration in the backfield and guys filling gap. I didn't see that either. Like when people attack him quickly, when people fill gaps, he struggles making guys miss. Overall, I really like him, but again, got to be true to what I see. And in terms of like quick penetration, A gap, he doesn't have that creativity kind of. He kind of jump cut outside sometimes instead of really breaking a guy down, crossing him over, things like that. But also another part of his game that I feel is underrated is his power. Like I think he has pretty good power that people don't really talk about. So I'm excited about him. I'm excited about and this is something that people talk about ad nauseum is Ty Johnson. That's another guy who I think in this scheme could really do pretty well. So that's the only thing that I learned from him. Not the only thing. Watch the review. It's a 2-hour review.
One thing I liked about his game that you pointed out on many occasions was when he gets in the second level, and he's definitely better at making people miss in the second level.
Oh, for sure. Once he gets going a little bit, yeah.
He is extremely good at lifting his leg up to avoid the contact and lessening
lighten that load on the near leg.
Yeah, he's very, very good at that. Probably, maybe his best trait that he has. So
somebody asked what grade you teach, or Verge, Tibbs, who's always in here.
I teach high school, so it's definitely sophomores every year, but sometimes other grades as well.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to the next couple of picks. We do have a caller on the line, but we'll get through the next couple of picks. Sherwood, what'd you learn about that pick?
Well, I'm on the record for the last show saying too that I didn't see that much with that guy, and then I watched your review, and you also weren't very high on him. I have a very tough time seeing this player be anything good at the next level. Could he be a guy who starts some games? Could he be a starter for a whole season? I mean, he could be, but I think he's going to be one of these guys who, he's just going to be kind of a liability on on any given week.
It's just it's the athleticism. Like he really lacks like that deep speed, the acceleration. Like, and it's funny too because like a lot of people just assume, you could tell, like as soon as they moved him to linebacker, like people came out, oh, really great speed for a linebacker, really good movement skills.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of guys in the NFL who had better movement. Even CJ Mosley has better movement skills than Sherwood, in my opinion. Blake Cashman has better movement skills. Hamza has better movement skills. So I like his smarts, but at the same time, there's also plays where he shows the smarts, but then he's also called out of position at times. So how smart is he really? Like pre-snap, I talked about it on the show, I think, pre-snap smarts versus post-smart snaps and knowing what to do with that pre-snap look kind of. And pre-snap, he showed that he was pretty good, but post-snap, he just didn't follow that up. I wasn't a big fan. That's not my favorite pick of the bunch. But let's get to the caller.
Like, where would they want to play him? Like I know that they want to play him more as a line, but like where,
I don't know where
though?
he fits because like he's not a Mike to me. I don't
No,
think he has the
definitely not.
movement skills to be a Will. Maybe he could play at Will a little bit, but Sam, I don't think he has the aggressiveness to play Sam.
Sam, I don't want this guy, setting the edge at times and stuff.
Yeah, he definitely lacks that trigger to like pull on guys sometimes. Like he definitely, like, people talk about his physicality. Like he might lay a big shot, but in terms of like that face into the fan stuff that we always talk about, like Hamza has, he does not have that. He does not have that. So let's move on to the caller, Mike from Jersey City. I believe he's talking about George Fant. So Mike, can you hear us?
What's up, Kyle and Joe?
What's up, man?
What's up, bro?
Second time caller. I called last show for the first time.
Oh, this is
Mike.
Forgive me for not knowing your.
I'm the one from Shea Stadium.
Okay. Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
People loved your call last time, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's getting some credit. He definitely.
Listen.
What do you comment as on the YouTube? You comment on the YouTube, right? What do you comment as?
I on your website, Hoof.
Okay.
HOOF.
Okay. So what's up, Mike?
Nothing. Before I get into what I want to say, I know what I'm listening to these reviews. You do a great job. You know what I'm sick and tired of?
Uh-oh.
I'm sick and tired of the bitch ass fans that complain about there's a fan over your head or you're drinking a beer.
Yeah.
I like, dude, you got to stop apologizing for that. Like, that's like, are you serious?
Dude, yeah.
Who the hell are you guys out there?
I forget what review it was, but somebody's like, I hope you just didn't move into that house because there's a fan. Like, you have to get a sheet behind you or something like that. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? Throw some super chats and I'll get a studio if you throw some super chats. Like, what is this? You know, I'll get once I get my other house, I'll have a little thing. Good.
Dude, I'm picturing myself 11 years old tripping over blackberry brandy bottles all over the place, weed and cigar smoke all over when I'm in that game. And if you could fast forward my life to now and be like, oh, there's a little fan over Joe's head. Yeah. Like, what? What happened here?
Dude, you grew up in a different generation, but that is 2021 in a nutshell right there for you, friend.
Oh my God.
I deal with it a lot, but you want to talk about George Fant?
No, that was last time.
Oh, it said that in your thing. Okay, that's weird. Go ahead.
No, what the problem, dude, I actually fucking coughed. I'm like, Mike, I'm like, oh shit. And I put the phone away from my mouth. So it came up George Fant. That's funny.
Okay. So not George Fant,
I'm like,
but...
No, but like, what you're talking about the linebackers now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sherwood, Nasruddin and all that. I'm just worried. Like, they don't seem like thumpers to me. Like, New England's going to run the ball this year, dude. They like loaded up on beef.
So in terms of,
these guys all seem light in the tail for me.
So light, yes, but Sherwood's not necessarily a thumper. Hamza, if you haven't watched that, Hamza's definitely a thumper.
Dude, watch Blewett's film review on Hamza, and you'll be like, okay, yeah, he's a thumper. He's
a thumper, and like people, they automatically assume that kind of like the linebackers in the NFL, like, okay, 240, 250. Like Darius Leonard weighs like 220 pounds, 225. And it's 6'2", 6'3", and Hamza weighs the same. So it's like that's the new age NFL linebacker. So do I want to see some of these guys put on weight? Like Hamza definitely has the frame where he could bulk up to 230 and probably not lose a lot of the athleticism he has. But I wouldn't be concerned about the linebackers. If anything, I would be concerned about some of the run game in terms, the front four in terms of some of the size. If they get those packages where they have Rankins and JFM inside, then they might get ran in a little bit, but I wouldn't be overly concerned about the linebackers. I don't know.
Especially because Carl Lawson, I mean, his run game defense is lacking a little bit too.
Yeah, it's average.
Yeah, I mean, they're not paying him to be a run stuffer.
That's right. That's that new defensive end they signed is a run stuffer, right?
Which one?
Ronald Blair. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do a review on him too, Mike. All those reviews will be out. Ronald Blair is obviously not the highest priority for some fans. The same.
Of course.
But I'm definitely going to get that out. Good point. The chat Delgado said, Jared Davis has that thumb too. Yeah, Jared Davis plays with his hair on fire. Like that guy, he might be lacking in terms of recognition and coverage and things like that. But if you're asking him to like set the edge as a Sam or just duck his head into a running back, whatever it may be, Davis is the most aggressive player, I think, on the Jets, most likely in that case. So I would be overly concerned with it. But what else you got, Mike?
The other thing is nobody talks about Ty Montgomery enough. I like him as a running back. What do you think of him?
You think about Ty Johnson?
Is it Ty Montgomery?
Ty Johnson.
Ty Johnson. I always keep calling him Montgomery.
That's probably because wasn't Ty Montgomery the guy we had the from the Packers the other?
Yeah, and now he went to the Saints.
Yeah, he was like the running back, wide receiver convert.
Yeah, number 88.
Yeah. No. So I get it.
Number
Yeah,
88 getting
Ty
handled.
Yeah, no, I meant Ty Johnson. Yeah.
So I don't know if you were listening before you called, but I literally, quite literally, just before you called, I think said that Ty Johnson is a guy who I think is going to be like that 1A, 1B with Michael Carter, and both Kyle and I agree that he is going to have a pretty big role because we think he's probably pretty good, or he's going to be pretty good for this scheme. So I think he has the speed. I think he has the vision. Like he was hitting holes pretty good last year. He doesn't have like power and things like that, but you don't necessarily need that for an outside zone system. You need to be able to run, be patient, and hit a gap. And he has that speed to outrun linebackers and safeties and even corners to a certain extent. So,
dude,
I'm excited about him.
For people that want to kind of learn some of the basics about like outside zone, just go on YouTube. You'll find hours upon hours upon hours of coaching clinics of Alex Gibbs teaching outside zone.
Watch the one on freaking, what is it called? Coach Benton.
Yeah. And obviously watch that one too, because you'll find more of the specifics for probably what the Jets are going to do. Yeah. But the reason why I brought Gibbs up is because one thing that you're going to see him emphasize over and over is you cannot have a running back that doesn't have good vision and doesn't know how to, because in outside zone, I mean, because you're not like, if you're running like a traditional power run, you're going to run it in that gap no matter what. But outside zone, like you have a general idea of what gap you're going to hit if it's there. But if it's not there, you got to know when you're going to, bend it back or you're going to bounce it.
Bend it, bang it, or bounce it.
Bend, bang, bounce. Yeah.
Yep.
And isn't there sometimes people differentiate with like a 4-3 too? Sometimes
with a 4-3, we're talking about.
No, never mind. Anyway, never mind. But anyway, so one of the things that Gibbs will stress over and over, and you'll see him because a lot of that film is him showing work done when work done was with the Falcons, and work done was like a smaller type of back. He wasn't big. He wasn't overly fast either. But the reason why Gibbs loved him, and part of the reason that guy produced every year, was he was just extremely good with knowing how to read the leverage of defenders. And when you watch Blewett's breakdowns too, you're going to see too, especially the Michael Carter one, especially in a zone type of scheme, you got to judge where the hats are of the defensive linemen. And if their hat is showing outside, then that's a good indication that you're going to bend it back in. But you got to have a running back that knows how to read those things as well. And while Johnson might not have the elite power of someone like a Derrick Henry or something like that, or obviously not even close, he did show in the limited carries we saw last year that he can, make some of those reads and stuff. So yeah, he's a guy who he's showing some promise, I guess.
Anything else?
It's nice to hear because, it's nice. That's about it. The basic call was to get these people to stop bitching, but you with the background shit all the time.
I love it.
Fucking stop, man. I wish you would drink bourbon and fucking do shots and end up passing out in the last play or two. That'd be fantastic.
You know what?
So,
Mike?
Just keep up the good work, you and Kyle.
There will be a show, I promise you this year, that I will drink too much and get a little bit drunk on this podcast just for you. All right.
That'll be absolutely fantastic. I'll do it with you.
There we go. I appreciate the call. Definitely call back in again. We love the insight.
All right. Be good, fellas.
All right. See you.
That was one of my favorite calls, Kyle. Just somebody who's calling in to tell people to stop bitching. That's perfect. I absolutely
fits right into your personality.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Sherwood, we talked about him. MC squared, Michael Carter too. You know, all this stupid crap we hear all the time. Quick thoughts. I don't know if you watched any more of him. I'm about to put out a review.
No,
Today is Monday.
I'm waiting for your review on him.
It'll probably be out Wednesday or Thursday. I won't give away too much. I like him. That's for sure. I think he's pretty smart. He definitely needs to work on his feet at the line of scrimmage and some things like that. His size and his arm length can hurt him at times, but in terms of being a pretty effective slot corner, you know, versatility to play safety, some things like that. I'm a pretty big fan of Michael Carter, and you know, following the pick of Sherwood, where I don't think I was unfair with any of the stuff I talked about. Like, some people were like commenting like, "Oh, give him a chance. Like, this is terrible," and like downvoted and stuff like that. But again, you could go to plenty of channels who will hype up every pick someone's are talking about. So do that. But
it's not that you didn't give him a chance. You never said anything like, "Oh, he's gotten zero chance to succeed." You're just saying, well, "Listen, the probability is not looking great for him to be a plus player."
And if he is, I'll root for him, and I'll be freaking ecstatic because I want the Jets to do well. You know, obviously. And you're going to eat crow. Like, there's not one person in the entire world who's gotten probably even half of their assumptions right on a player and things like that. So if I can be 50%, I'll be ecstatic.
The best talent evaluators in the world pass up on great players all the time. Look how many great players, you know, succeed as UDFAs. And
moving on to Pinnock, that just came out yesterday. So if you were on this live stream and didn't watch that, it just came out yesterday in the morning. Or no, was that today? No, that was today. It came out. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was actually today. So that came out at 8 a.m. today. I know Kyle got a little bit early, but what are your thoughts on his play?
So I'm going to take a guess about how your feelings were about this, but you know how you said AVT's film was boring? I'm going to guess that you're saying Pinnock's was fun.
Yeah, right? It was. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun. Because it's a roller coaster. Like, you're seeing some great in there, and then you're seeing some, holy shit, man, you just got burned. Like, yeah. How many long touchdowns did I mean, stats can be misleading and stuff, but he probably had a lot of long touchdowns given up on the season.
It was crazy. Like, his film was literally lock a guy down, squeeze him to the sideline, throw him out of bounds, and then give up two touchdowns long in a row. Like, his play was absurdly like inconsistent, but like a lot of his problem comes from, and I don't care. And I don't know if you agree with me on this film review, because you didn't really tell me your thoughts, but I don't care what the 40 said. He's not a 4.45 guy. There's absolutely no way he's a 4.45 guy. He does not play like that. And a lot of his problem comes from like gearing down. Like, he tries to throw two hands in space way too much. And for whatever reason it is, when receivers get onto his toes, he gears down. Like, he does not stay in his back pedal. He does not stay in his shuffle. So if you stem towards him, as soon as you close some distance, he just slows down and he automatically assumes he's going to get his hands on you. And that's why he gets beat so deep, he gets beat deep often, because he doesn't have that recovery speed. He doesn't have that acceleration, you know. But like, in terms of athleticism, like vertical and lateral agility and flexibility, he has that. But in terms of speed, do not see the 4.45 and think he's that guy, because I think he's more of like a 4.6 guy on film.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, first of all, 4.49 was his 40, but that was a pro day 40. And as we know, 4.49, I checked it yesterday. But again, it's a pro day, so there's a star there. Remember, Jamal Adams ran a 4.56 at the combine and then ran like a low 4.4 at his pro day. All right. You don't run. I mean, that just shows you how misleading pro day stats can be. Is it 4.49, right? You're seeing it?
No, Jets. The first two ones that came up were Jets Wire, who said 4.45.
Well, according to Mock Draftables, a 4.49. Who the hell knows? Maybe
whatever.
Because again, it's a pro day, so maybe different stopwatch guys got different times. Who the fuck knows?
Okay, so he's not a 4.4 guy or a 4.5 guy. I'm saying he's a 4.6 guy.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty fair. So I have a question for you about him. So the whole gearing down thing, this is obviously kind of like a psychological thing and probably a panic type of thing. And then when you panic, you're not thinking properly. How much do you think that can be coached out of him? Like, you know,
I don't think that's something that's like, I think that just comes with experience, to be completely honest. Like, I don't, and again, like, you know, I don't know what's being taught to him. So maybe he was already they were trying to teach it to him and he just can't learn it. Like, there's a lot of players who, like, they have the, you know, we know this, they have the athleticism, they have the skill set to transition to the next level, but it's that mental part of the game that they just can't get over. Like, whether it be the hours of film study or adjusting on the fly, whatever it may be. So I think it's for everybody. It's a case by case basis, but I think it'd be pretty easy to teach a guy, hey, in space, stop shooting two hands. And I said it in the review, like with some of his play. I don't know if it was specifically him, but like tie his hands behind his back, you know, in certain instances, and then learn how to use your hands, because your feet and your eyes are first. Your feet, your eyes, your hips are first before your hands. You know, so tie your hands behind your back. There's something, I think I said it was with him actually. It wasn't his hands behind his back. It was his hands drop and like get that tennis ball and don't shoot your hands at all, and just rub that tennis ball to have your hands on guard, because his hands drop too often and he can't shoot them. So I think it's a thing you can fix. Just don't shoot two hands and keeping your back pedal. Like, you have the athleticism to not necessarily speed turn, but flip your hips and break towards the sideline. Like, he has the mobility in his hips. He doesn't have the acceleration, but like, I think he could adjust if a guy undercuts him, you know, but you do not want to get beat deep because you don't have the speed, you don't have the acceleration. So it's something I think that's coachable. You know, like, accuracy is a thing that we say is not very coachable for the most part. Like, there are few and far between cases, but I wouldn't be overly concerned that he can't do that.
Speaking of, so when you were talking about coaching him with like tying his hands behind his back, I thought that was a really interesting, like, kind of thought experiment. And I remember that when Stephon Gilmore, who was, you know, this is the 9th overall draft pick back in 2012, you know, and he was just an okay player for the Bills. You know, he was nothing special with the Bills. Maybe he made one Pro Bowl with the Bills, maybe as like an alternate, which, you know, nowadays doesn't mean anything. But he became elite when he went to the Patriots.
Isn't it crazy, by the way, that there are incentives and contracts for like rookies and stuff like that if you make it to the Pro Bowl, and like how much your cap raises and things like that?
You think that's crazy? Why do you think that's crazy?
It's a popularity contest. Like, you're talking about actual hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars because of fan voted thing. Like, it is crazy.
But the fans is only a certain percentage of someone making the Pro.
Even you know.
Yeah.
What if it's that edge that gets you a couple more $1 million after, you know, a tag or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good point. And naturally, the players who were with bigger fan bases have an advantage in that regard.
Exactly. It's crazy. Yeah. But continue. Sorry.
So one of the ways that they would coach Gilmore early on in his days with the Patriots is they would put like mitts on his hands so he couldn't grab, because he had a big grabbing problem when he was with the Bills.
Had to put some mitts on too.
Yeah. So and you know, amongst other reasons, that's probably, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, and obviously Belichick's a great coach, but you know, I mean, you saw a lot less grabbiness when Gilmore went to the Patriots and stuff, less holding penalties and things like that. But you know, I was kind of thinking like, and you know, he was dropping his hands too much, so maybe this isn't the greatest analogy, but like just watching his film, like there were certain times when it was just sexy, like when he would jam with one hand, and then the receiver would try to jam it with the other, and then he would hit him even with the other hand sometimes too. So you're talking like 3 jams in the span of seconds.
His hands are so good. Sometimes.
And it's like, dude, maybe this guy, he's in the wrong sport. He should be a boxer, you know?
Play him, like right now, like I said, cover 2, play him in a cloud, or like if you're going to play him in cover 3, or you can play him in man press and just have a guy over the top. And I think that's like, when you're looking at the Jets scheme, and we have to run through these picks quicker because we said we're going to be quick. It's been an hour, which is just, I said we could do a stream for freaking 10 hours. And somebody had asked, by the way, 2 really quick questions. Shots during the live watching of Darnold versus Wilson week 1. Sure. If you're coming to the stadium with me, because I'm going to be in Carolina. You know, again, if you want to meet me at a game, people want to do that, tailgate, come to the game. I am more than welcome to meet any Jets fans there and have a good time, as long as you're not you know, snowflake. Not getting political. I'm just saying, don't be soft and get mad at me for drinking. And a lot of people, like, it's funny. I've met people like try to come up to me and I talk film, like when I'm drinking, and I'm like, dude, no, like, let's just talk about like stupid crap, you know. But continuing on,
that's shocking to me that you wouldn't want to talk film.
No, not when I'm drinking. Not when I'm drinking.
Why?
Because I'm drinking. I can't think of words.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, oh, what was that? Like cover 3. What was? I'm like, screw it. Let's play cornhole. So, I forget what we're talking about.
We were talking about you know, his hands in, you know, how good he is at jamming people.
Oh yeah, his replacement.
And you were talking about playing him in a cover 2 cloud. You know?
Yeah. Cover 2 cloud, cover two man with help over the top. Cover 3, I could see it. I don't want him in bail though, because I don't think he has the necessary speed for it. Like, play him over the top and teach him to stack the route. Even though I'm a little bit worried with him in 3 and playing off, because when people approach him, he gets that 2-hand punchiness and locks his hips.
I did love that one play where he was in cloud, where he it was in the end zone, and he had a pass deflection with one hand. And you're like, yo, he almost snagged it in as an interception with one hand. You're like, that would have been absurd if he caught that. That was a nice play.
You
really nice play.
you tend to love people either getting beat or making plays on smash concepts. That's what I've noticed about you. You're a big smash concept guy. Did you know that?
Well, I did know that because Sam Darnold sucks at it. I was trying to tell you for years. I don't know.
So moving on to the next pick, Hamza Nasr-Ladin. What are your thoughts on Mr. Hamza? Or updated thoughts, not overall thoughts. We already did this. Updated what you learned thoughts, because
I hadn't known anything about him when we did our last live stream, because I all the film that I had, I'm talking strictly coach's film. I could have watched some highlights or whatever, but I didn't have one game of him. Like I had a couple Florida State games, but I think he was injured for those. So I hadn't watched any of him before on our last live stream. So I was totally coming in, and I saw some people hype him up, and I was like, okay, give him a shot. But like,
did he deserve the hype?
Yeah. And when did they pick him? 5th round, 6th round?
He was picked 6th round, 186 overall.
So for him to fall that low, he must have some serious injury concerns.
Same.
Because a player of this caliber falling that late, there's no way that a player of this caliber should be falling that late, in my opinion. Like, you want to talk about a guy who, I don't know what he tested as, or if he even tested at all, but you want to talk about quickness and speed, and just the tenacity, playing at a high level of college football, the arm length, 34-inch arms as like a defensive back hybrid linebacker. It's an insane arm length. Guys like that shouldn't be going this late. So it's got to be it. But I mean, when you're talking about, you do see some Jamal Adams in his game. I mean,
you said you enjoyed that part. Yeah.
Yeah. You see some of it, like the sticking the willingness. Okay, the guy's already in a pile, but let me go and lay a shot on him. Okay. The ability to come from high and then to fill a gap from way on high. Marcus May's pretty good at doing that too. But it's really good. In terms of pre-snap recognition and even post-snap, he doesn't have that level of football IQ that Jamal Adams had. And, that's part of the reason, listen, is Jamal Adams the smartest dude off the field? I don't know. And clearly he's kind of a little soft mentally in that aspect.
A little.
Yeah. Well, I want to be a little generous to the guy though, because, mental health is a real thing though. But if you want to talk all this shit and then you get all butthurt when people talk shit back to you and stuff, I lose a little bit of sympathy for you there. But, anyway, yeah, this was a fun player and stuff. And so when we're talking about playing high, Sherwood, there should be no reason at all at the next level that he will ever be in a high shell, whether it's single high, even as a two high.
No.
You never will put Sherwood there.
No,
but Hamza can play there in given spots and stuff. I even think that in terms of the next level, this guy, in my opinion, has got way more versatility in the next level than does Sherwood.
Yeah, and that was something I talked about in the review, definitely, in terms of Sherwood should never be out of the box, in my opinion, where Hamza might play, 90% in the box, but on a look where they're going to roll coverage or disguise something, can he drop into a deep third? I think he 100% could. There's going to be some exotic looks. So I think he can do that. And it's a guy who could throw one of those tagged blitzes. I think he has the ability to scrape away from that and take those exit angles. And basically a tag blitz, for people who don't know, is just, players line up in gaps. Whoever the offensive linemen take, those are the guys who drop into coverage. The guys who they don't take are the ones to blitz. So I think he's a guy who could do that, where a guy in Sherwood doesn't necessarily have the athleticism to get on those exit angles to get into different zones. So he's a guy who's going to play a little bit more vanilla, in my opinion. Maybe I'm a little bit off there, but that's how I feel about him. But moving on to the next guy, Brandon, people tend to get a little excited and stuff, and you're saying a little bit of Jamal Adams in his game. Listen, one thing Jamal Adams was absolutely elite at
was his ability to rush off the edge and kind of dip around. I mean, like, listen, he's not rushing with power unless he's, rushing into Saquon Barkley, but Jamal Adams had like elite bend around the edge, and you don't really see that with Hamza, although he's not bad at that, but like that's another clear big gap of a difference between those two players.
Yeah, the aggression is what we're talking about. Like his mindset, he has that for sure. Moving on to the next one, Eccles. I know there was only we both only got 2-3 games. I think 3 games of Eccles at Kentucky.
And I barely saw anything in those games. So
how many? It was so much cover 3 and then just throwing the ball away, or like quick screens or like whatever it was. But nothing really new.
And I only watched one game at the time because at that point in time I was rushing to get it in before we did the live stream, and I think he got hurt in that game too. So I didn't even see him finish that game. So I don't really have much of an opinion on that player. So
I have a review coming out. I'm not overly sold on the pick. Like I like him. No, that's not true. I think he's okay. Like I'm not gonna just hype him up. I think he's a little bit tight, in terms of like I think they drafted him strictly because of the athleticism, the 40 time, the speed, the all that. I think that's why they drafted him. But on film, super raw. Ham's the same thing, like raw. But I think if he was healthy, a guy who's probably a mid-second, late second, early third, people say he's a first-round pick. He doesn't have the upstairs stuff yet for me to say he's a first, but or the elite athleticism. Like you either have to be some combination, but if you're an elite athletically, then maybe you could be a first-round pick. But he has good athleticism and mindset and leadership and things like that. But moving on, and somebody asked about a realistic record for the Jets. I guess quickly hit that. I'm gonna say I think between 7 and 9 wins. That's where I would go. That's where I feel pretty comfortable. For the people saying like, oh, they're gonna win 5 games. I don't understand how you see that with an easier schedule, with Saleh versus Gase as the coach. A couple of years ago they were 7 and 9 with Gase as the coach and Darnold as a quarterback with like no roster, the most injured roster in the NFL. Gase's first year by like millions and millions of dollars on IR, and that wasn't even with Mosley on IR. So I see 7 and 9 wins with the schedule and Saleh and the talent improvement. I don't know what you see, Kyle, quickly.
Yeah, the only thing with that is you have to expect that the Patriots are going to be better this year, right? You'd expect that. I'm expecting that
just based on their players coming back alone from the opt-outs.
Yeah, and Chung did retire, and he was a good piece in that Patriots defense.
In 2012.
And Hightower, I mean, like, I didn't want him to come to the Jets, but he's also a good piece for that Patriots defense. So he's coming back. But the Dolphins, will they be better?
It's all about the quarterback. It really is. Like they lost some guys, but their secondary is pretty good. Like they have some pretty good rushers. They have good weapons.
So Tua's obviously got a higher ceiling. I mean, the Dolphins definitely upgraded their receiving core. There's no doubt about that. With Fuller and drafting.
When
Waddle.
Fuller's healthy, and Fuller has never really been healthy. The one year he was healthy, he was on roids. So
yeah, but maybe he'll juice up and not get caught this time. Who knows? And getting Waddle. And then they had a ton of draft picks this year,
which by the way, we didn't hit on that, but like I think in their situation, like they were hoping for like a couple of guys, and then it was Waddle, and it was like, did they really want to trade back up for Waddle? I'm not 100% sure. Especially with Tua, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, but, relatively conservative. Is not a big, like, deep ball thrower. So is Waddle the best use of resources for that team? I don't really know.
Thing with Tua, and this is actually something that kind of like, Saban actually told him he needed to tone it down, is Tua, at least in college, had a big tendency to always try to extend plays. So, but the problem is, he's a smaller type of guy and he doesn't seem to be the most durable guy in the world. So that might lend him to injuries over his career and stuff. We'll see. Russell Wilson loves to extend plays, but he also never gets hurt. So, but I could see the Dolphins even being better than they were last year, even though they kicked our ass twice last year. And
I think
the
Bills
Bills
might be the second best division in football.
Yeah. And the Bills, they didn't lose anybody. So, while we could say that the schedule is easier than last year, is it? I mean, because our division, I would say, is still really hard. I think it's going to be overall even better than it was last year. So
I still think they'll be last in the division, to be honest. Maybe they'll beat out the Patriots or maybe the Dolphins if they get towards that 9 wins. But I still think if I had to bet, they'll be last. But you're talking about 2022, then you're talking about them being maybe second or even first. You don't really know if Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's good. Do I think he's an MVP top 3 quarterback like everybody else thinks? I do not. I think he might be top 10 now.
And he was bad in that Chiefs game, the championship game.
Yeah, I think he's being overrated a little bit. Just like anybody who makes it far into the playoffs, or has kind of big spark like that run, people tend to overrate like RG3, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, I feel like is very overrated. Ryan Tannehill, I feel is very overrated. So whatever, but moving on, last pick of the draft, Jonathan Marshall, have you watched?
I don't think Tannehill is very overrated. He's a little overrated right now, but I think you are much lower on Tannehill than I think you're a little harsh on Tannehill, I think.
Is what it is? Wait, sue me.
I ain't gonna sue you. I'm just telling you my honest opinion. But
okay.
I think 7 wins between 7 and 9 wins is pretty realistic for the Jets. But it's still, I mean, at this point as a head coach, Saleh is still an uncertainty. And coaching, I think in the NFL, more so than any other sport, matters so much. So, we can make predictions and stuff, but he still has to kind of show us he's still a relative unknown at this point, and as is Wilson at this point. I could see them winning between 7 and 9. I can.
If you had to guess, would you say 7? Like between 7 and 9? If I had to guess a record, it's probably 8 and 9. If I had to put it down,
that's actually exactly what I would have just said too.
8 and 9.
Without looking at the schedule, but I would say the same thing.
And I think if they were in an easier a division, if they were the AFC South, I think they could be a playoff team, like a wild card team. I do. I just think I try not to be somebody who's hyped up the Jets, but the only reason I don't think they will is because how good their division is and how many hard games they have to play. But just the Saleh effect, we've talked about before, we'd be from 2 to 4 wins last year. I would say just with a different coach. Now you add in a better quarterback. I think Zach Wilson, I'm not trying to put too much on his plate, but can he be better than the worst quarterback in the NFL last year statistically? I would hope so. Is the offensive line going to be better? Undoubtedly. Is their pass rush going to be better? Undoubtedly. Is the schedule easier? Undoubtedly. So yes, I think they're going to win some more games. I really do. So
they really need to get a backup quarterback.
James Minnick said 5 and 12. I will bet you however much money you're willing to that they will not be 5 and 12 to have more than 5 wins. Have at least 6 wins.
Who does he think is going to be 5 and 12?
The Jets, 5 and 12. I will put a lot of money on that. At least up to 1,000. I will put on that. If you're and the chance that person actually pays up on that, I'm very doubtful. But I would like to make a quick grand. That'd be nice considering injuries. But let's go to the Jonathan Marshall. You didn't hit on him. I know you weren't very high on him. I think that's one point we disagreed with a little bit. You were saying you didn't like the pick, but again, for the sixth round 207th pick, I saw what they did. With the last couple of picks, they took guys with really high or pretty high physical upside. And Marshall, he got washed out and stuff like that, but he also shouldn't have been a zero tech. If you're asking Marshall on 10 snaps a game to penetrate the B gap or slant or do whatever, as long as he's not stacking or playing that push or that lag technique I was talking about, which is it's one gapping, but a little more conservative one gapping. We are playing that one gap. You're not necessarily just slanting into a gap penetrating. I think he could be pretty good. So I actually like the Marshall pick in terms of the value they got in that, 6th round of the draft.
For me, it might just kind of play into my bias and what I prefer because I played on the defensive line, was my best position when I used to play football. And for me, it always kind of irked me, teammates around me and stuff that played with low effort. And I know he was played out of position, but he was just a very, very, very low effort player. And you play with low effort in the NFL, you're going to get your ass kicked. I don't care if you're playing out of position. So
now, was it effort or was it physical?
No,
conditioning?
No, because you saw in the first drive of the game, he was playing with low effort.
Yeah, there were definitely
very first drive of the game. So I mean, now maybe he's playing with low effort because he's pissed at the coaching staff that they're playing him out of position. Maybe, but still, you still should be giving more effort. But could a hyped up coach like Saleh? I mean, who gets more hype than him? Could that be what it? I mean, when you're playing at this high of a level, you shouldn't need that level of motivation. Oh, that's a great point. Yeah. you shouldn't need that level of motivation. But yeah, if this guy is just, he's just straight shooting one gap, there is a good deal of potential there and stuff. But I didn't feel like he was a particularly smart player. I thought he played with very shitty hands and stuff as well. But he does have some elite level burst. So you're talking about like, disrupting something like, like in the quick game, like if the quarterback's under center, taking a snap from under center, and he could like potentially blow something up really quick before the play ever gets going. But this guy's going to have to work at it and stuff. And he's got to get much better with his hands too. Anyway,
some people in the chat, Delgado saying Flacco's better than Darnold. We have some backup quarterback talk. Donald asked who was playing with low effort. We're talking about Jonathan Marshall, the last pick of the draft. Any other on UDFAs you watched a little bit more, learned a little bit more about? I know you got roasted the last podcast for your hate on Kenny Yeboah.
Listen, maybe your film review about him will change my mind, I never even watched him one-on-one. Like, okay, let me just focus on Yeboah, other than like a couple plays. Like, oh, I knew when I was watching more, okay, yeah, we drafted this guy or we picked this guy up too. But like, I wasn't a fan of him. But at this point, in terms of my draft eval, I'm just going to watch with your things right now. And I'm doing a little bit of studying of the 49ers offense and the Packers offense, just kind of, seeing tendencies and stuff that we might run this year. So in terms of player eval at this point, I'm just waiting for you to teach me, sir.
Yeboah, again, physical upside is there in terms of like what he was asked to do. Like a lot of his catches were like, okay, run a hitch or a snag route and catch the ball wide open and like not have to break sharply. So
and then sometimes he'll drop it when he's wide open.
Sometimes he'll drop it. He has a speed, like he has speed, he has some yak ability, but like in terms of like proven NFL commodity, like should he have been maybe undrafted? No, but like a 6th round pick, maybe, Rashid.
What are Yeboah's measurables? I don't know that I ever even looked that up.
6'4", 6'5", 240, 245, if I go off the top of my head.
And like, what did he run and jump and stuff?
I don't know. Look it up.
Tell me about this Rashid dude.
Rashid, if I have to watch more. Admittedly, I'm early. If he was the 2019 player that he was, or if he was the 2019 player into 2020, he would have been a draft pick probably in the 3rd or 4th round. So I'll have to watch 2020 and see what went wrong. I've heard some out of position type deals. I've heard some, there might've been a potential injury, but I want to see it with my own eyes. But in terms of like, being like a straight line explosive type guy, I think he has that. I think he flashes some good hand usage, both in the run game and the pass game. Upper body's pretty flexible, like dipping his shoulder and like using like that ghost rip or swinging rip or ghost move, whatever you want to call it. He has some of that. But I think his hips are a little bit tight in terms of like cornering, like getting around that corner. So like, there are some questions with him, but overall pretty happy with him, pretty happy with Yeboah in terms of like UDFAs. Isaiah Dunn right now is the one I'm planting my flag to of the UDFAs. I know a lot of people love Yeboah. A lot of people love Rashid. And I'm not just hyping up, Dunn because he got the largest cornerback contract the Jets have ever gave out to a UDFA. But watching him, again, admittedly early, I'm pretty impressed with Dunn. I really am. And Kyle, I hound on corners. So I think like he's I'm kind of joking, but I think he's already better than Bless Austin. So
oh, that's not saying much.
So Rashid lacks power a lot. Sometimes I think some of his lack of power might come from him coming into blocks a little bit high, but like, for the expected power of like a guy who's like 245, I think he has some of that. People talking about backup quarterbacks and stuff. We're going to get into that. And then other than that, somebody asked about Hogue, Tristan Hogue. From what I've heard and seen of him, he's not athletic enough to be an outside zone guy, the guard from BYU. Chris Nugar is the kicker. We'll see. I don't know. Anything else you want to get into before we get into, we have so many freaking topics. We're going to push like half the show off until next show anyway. So,
no, nothing specific. We'll just roll with the flow.
With the draft, let's just hit this real quick. To finally like wrap it up before we get into more film and probably talk about it a little bit in the future. What are your 3 favorite picks of the draft? To go, for your most favorite pick, your second favorite pick, your third favorite pick.
All right. Well, Zach Wilson is definitely my favorite. And, some people might say, oh, well, quarterback, of course it's your favorite. But like, I don't know. I mean, like I never played quarterback. I'm not overly athletic. As a football player, I won more with tenacity and effort and, strength and power than athleticism. I'm not the most athletic guy in the world. Although I did kick your ass in bowling.
Okay. Well, we're gonna see about cornhole.
3 games, kicked your ass in every one of them.
You know what? We can live stream the cornhole when I'm gonna be dominating you. You're not gonna score a point. We do the points canceling out, and you're gonna get dominated. So.
But there's something like, and there was this dude that I went to high school.
I can't get over that. You know what? I'm not the most athletic guy, but I did beat Joe in bowling. Have you ever seen some of these guys who win these tournaments? You know what? That's you, Kyle. You're that guy.
Some of them are some rather overweight dudes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like there is something to me. Like there was this dude I went to high school with, man. He didn't play football, and like he could have. Like it's not like he had like some kind of health condition that he couldn't. But he had like almost every good quarterback in the NFL's jersey. And he's like, I'm just a fan of quarterbacks and quarterback play. And like, that just kind of always rubbed me the wrong way. Like, okay, yeah, of course. Like quarterback, the guy who's like always got his face on TV and they always make the storylines about him and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there is something that's just like when you watch a good quarterback, when they're just dominant, there's something about it that's just really fun and you really enjoy it. And like the Jets have not had that. Like a dominant, good quarterback that you can just rely on week in, week out ever since I've been following the team closely. And I've just always wanted that and lusted over that, for other fan bases that do.
I feel like such a jackass too, because I remember specifically being at work and watching Darnold versus the Texans. I could not get off. And trust me, if there's one person in the world who's going to get off of work or try to get off of work for a Jets game, like I've worked like multiple doubles in a row to get off for Jets games. I would, but I was unfortunately stuck at work for that game. And I feel like such an asshole because I was like, this is their guy. Like after watching that game, I'm like, he's it. And then look what happens. Like if I can just get a guy who can consistently play like Darnold did against the Texans and the Packers, like at those games, he was upper tier. Like that, those games were very, very good quarterback play.
Yeah.
But yeah, to have that, to lust for that for a season, 3 seasons, 7 seasons, like, can you imagine?
Dude.
And I think Wilson has that chance. Like, I think he has a pretty damn high ceiling with what he could do. Like, yeah, he's not Patrick Mahomes with his arm and things like that, but like, in terms of like his arm angles and things like that, like you can't argue that his ceiling is top 5, top 10. I'm not saying that's what he's going to be. Do not get me wrong. Do not, don't get after me like the background fan people who are probably that one person that Chav's going to download it or comment after. But is that his ceiling? 100%. Like he could be a top 10, top 5 guy. A lot of it's about your cerebralness and like your mental, which I think he has to a certain extent. But yeah, obviously, like, yeah, good quarterback play is exciting because it's the most important position in all of sports. And like you said, we never had one. So if Wilson could be that, like, of course, that's your favorite pick of the draft, you said?
Definitely. That's not
what
even
would be your
close.
feelings right now if the Jets had Justin Fields?
Dude, so the only other jersey current active player that I have on the Jets is Quinnen Williams. So even though, you and I have kind of, gone at it a little bit with Quinnen, I do like Quinnen and I really liked him coming out. But after getting burned with buying some of these players' jerseys, I'm very hesitant with buying a player's jersey. But a couple weeks ago, I bought a Wilson jersey just like you. That shows how much I believe in this kid. And I specifically never bought a Darnold jersey because I wanted to believe in him, but I needed to see more of it first. So I'm kind of sticking my neck out on a limb. And part of the reason I bought this Wilson jersey is I'm confident that they're actually developing him right. Like they're surrounding him. They're putting him in a good position to succeed. Sure. So I'm much more bullish on him actually reaching his potential because of the situation they're putting him in. So that's definitely my favorite pick. Just because I think of how much I'm going to enjoy, hopefully watching him for years to come. Then I would say 2 is 2 and 3. Like Wilson is definitely number 1. No, there's no question. 2 and 3 is much closer for me. And I was going back and forth just as you asked me, but I would have to say
Can I interrupt you? So I already heard your second, obviously. I have yours. But in terms of like, what would your, like, and I don't necessarily want to like do this, but like, I feel like it's like the new, like, and to be like, whatever it is, I don't know what, like really what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but like every single like non-expert out there says that Fields is better than Wilson. Like, I do not know what it is. I don't know if it's like the new thing. It's like, oh, I like Fields, or people get like maybe enamored with like the physical characteristics he had.
What do you mean by non-expert? Like, what are you talking about? Like
whoever it may be, like not the
you don't have to give
scouts.
Specific names, but like guys,
other draft websites,
okay,
or
okay,
podcasters, like, and I'm not talking about Daniel Jeremiah, like those guys. Like those guys are pretty like he was actually a scout, but like the more, let's say, not intermediate. What's the word I'm looking for?
Like guys who don't maybe work for like a big like network or something like that.
Like the more like novice guys are like, oh, Fields, everybody's Fields, a lot of them. But like you personally, because I know you were a Wilson guy as I was over Fields. Like, how much different would your mentality be right now if they had Fields over Wilson? And I don't want to get into this a lot because like we don't, who cares? But I like if they picked Fields over Wilson, I would be very disappointed, to be completely honest. Like I would have a completely different mindset right now. I wasn't a big Fields guy. Like I said, like I had Darnold rated over him based on his film, where I had Wilson rated over both of those guys. And I'm not Monday morning quarterback. I'm saying based on them coming out, I had Darnold above Fields, but like kind of like what would your thoughts be if they had Fields now? And I guess that's why, the Wilson pick is your favorite, because of how much you had him over Fields.
That's part of it. I think judging based on how you just said what you said and everything that we've talked about before, Fields versus Wilson, I wouldn't be as disappointed as you are. I think the gap for you is bigger than it is for me between the two, but I'd still be very excited because there's no doubt that he's a very talented player, and just judging from like a talent perspective, like, in my eyes, I think he's definitely more talented than Darnold. What was I going to say? Shit.
Just to talk while you're trying to figure out what you said. The same guy who said the Jets are going to be 5-12 said there's an 80% chance that Wilson will be a bust. Look at the Jets' history of players drafted number 2. 70% have been bust. Like, situation doesn't matter. All that stuff. Just trying to lump everything in together. That's probably one of the most dumb things I've seen as a comment. But continue.
Yeah, but so for me with Wilson, so the big difference. I know what I was going to say now. The big difference between Fields and Wilson for me is I just feel that Wilson has that extra specialness to his game that Fields just doesn't have. And I hate to sound like a freaking broken record, but listen, when you're talking about professionals at the NFL level, guys know their assignments much better. You see much less coverage busts in the NFL than you see in college, right? Holes close much quicker. And that means that means holes in terms of the run game, but holes in terms of coverage as well. So there's much less room for error in terms of like when you're a quarterback, like you got to get through your reads like super duper quick. And sometimes you might get through your reads and there's just nothing there because the defenses are coached up that well. The players do this for a living. They've been doing this for a living for years. They know their assignments very well. So sometimes you just got to make shit happen on your own and extending the play. And while Fields has that athleticism, he just doesn't have that magic level that Wilson has. And if anyone wants to say Wilson's a one-year wonder, maybe the best play that you will see from Wilson is his sophomore year against USC. You know the play I'm talking about, Blewett, right? Where he scrambles up and about, and then he must have dropped back more than 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage on that play, maybe even more. And then he runs up through the line of scrimmage and throws a guy open, hits some 40, 50 yards down the field for a huge gain, right? I mean, that is shit you cannot coach. You just can't coach that. And when we were talking about like rolling to your left, like, all right, so you brought up Sam Darnold and how good he was against the Texans and how giddy you were watching that Texans game back in 2018. I remember that was on my wife's birthday. Anyway, maybe the best throw that Darnold had was when he rolled out to his left and threw to Robbie Anderson on the sideline. You know what throw I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It was like a designed rollout to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a very difficult throw. You're a right-handed quarterback rolling out to your left, and Darnold has some of that, and that's part of the reason why people projected Darnold to be a good quarterback. But I'm sorry, like Wilson rolling to his left, and I said this on the last live stream, I will already say that in terms of rolling to your left as a righty and throwing, let me see if this is the play. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah, look at this fucking play, man. And Wilson's a sophomore here, bro. This isn't some one-hit wonder. Well, he's a one-year wonder. Oh, he only had a good junior year. Bullshit, man. You saw special plays like this as a fucking sophomore.
Yeah, that review I put up, like, yeah, there were certain mistakes he made, but like, and it comes from like that ability to create on his own, where like, yeah, Fields can run and things like that, but like getting out of the pocket, creating, like, I don't think he's as good as Wilson. And then in terms of like the mentality, like you said, like those windows close really quickly in the NFL, and Wilson undoubtedly, like maybe over the middle, it suffered more than outside. Outside, he had better anticipation than over the middle to me. But he undoubtedly pulled the trigger quicker than Fields. Like Fields really need to see guys open, and don't pull up 2 plays, 3 plays, 10 plays, 15 plays. It's about seasons of play and
Can you play that one more time, Joe?
Please? And Wilson had that more to me, like the anticipation, the reading of defenses, the reading of leverage than Fields had. Like Fields may have more traits like speed and maybe some arm power, but like Wilson's is obviously great as well. But he had more of the important quarterbacking traits to me that are important, quick trigger, reading a defense, getting the ball out quickly in terms of his actual release. Like there's a lot more things that I had, but again, we've talked about Fields versus Wilson for literally 2 months, so I don't want to do this forever.
I know. But you kind of asked me about it. So like now let's provide a little bit more context, but just, I love when he's running back up through there. Just look at how he narrows his shoulder and holds onto the ball with 2 hands. Like this is,
and he pulls the ball up too, like just to avoid any hands. Like he expected hands from low, and it's like the little things, like him pulling the ball up right there.
Yeah.
Knowing guys are coming low is like, it's so little, but that's the stuff that we're talking about that he has.
And you can maybe coach some of this stuff, like, with bag drills and stuff. Like, remember Johnny Manziel's pro day when like they're hitting him with all these like, pool toys and stuff. And
you could teach it in practice, but actually when it comes to a game.
Exactly. And honestly, guys out there, you tell me how many plays you see like this from Justin Fields. I know you'll see Justin Fields throwing some fucking dimes downfield on 9 routes.
His deep ball is undoubtedly better than Wilson's to me.
Yeah, and Wilson's deep ball is very good, and maybe Wilson. I won't even give Wilson more touch. But Wilson has good touch on his deep ball, as does Fields. But like in terms of the power,
I would say over the middle and stuff, his touch is better. Like Fields, the common misconception with me with Fields, and people say he's elite accuracy. He missed a lot of balls over the middle. Like his power, his control and his power and touch wasn't there for me as much as it was for Wilson over the middle specifically. Like he missed throws where he just rips balls. Like he just throws them as hard as he could possibly throw them at times.
So let me just wrap up this point. And again, I'm going into depth because Joe asked me about this, and obviously this is something that's probably this debate will ensue between Jets and Bears fans for years, probably which one is better, unless it's like so clear. You will not find that many plays of Fields doing stuff like that in college, where you're going to find a lot more of Wilson doing that type of stuff. And I'm sorry, just look at the guys who we know are definitely like borderline top 5 quarterbacks: Rodgers, Watson, Russell Wilson. And if you want to put Josh Allen in there, okay, go ahead. They do this type of stuff like at a pretty frequent basis. And this is the stuff that this was what kept Russell Wilson alive in that Super Bowl against the New England Patriots, whose defense played very well in that game. Mm-hmm. And they should have won that game. They should have. We all know what happened at the end. Not really Russ's fault. It's more the coaching staff's fault, and a great play by Malcolm Butler. Unbelievable play. But yeah, and good coaching too. They knew that the Seahawks run that down there. But yeah, so definitely I'm higher on Wilson, and certainly I would be more disappointed, but this is the thing that I keep going back to. And so Wilson's got that level of speciality to him, mm-hmm. but he also has
speciality. Is that a word?
Maybe it's not, but whatever. But he also has this, and we talked about this last week as well. The dude is a football psycho. And you're also seeing it with this team building stuff right now, right? Like, I mean, he's already been to multiple games, going to hockey games. I mean, listen, the dude's from Utah. Did they play hockey out in Utah? I don't think so.
I don't know what the closest team is to Utah off the top of my head.
Right. So like, yeah, I can't think of one either.
I don't know.
So okay, like this is a good team building exercise and stuff. And we've all heard the stories about like just how much of a junkie he is with football. So like you combine that level of dedication, this amount of innate, uncoachable, unteachable type of talent that he has. I mean, that's something that just, it's got to get you excited. So I would definitely be more disappointed, but probably not disappointed as you. It's a very long-winded way of answering your question.
Somebody saying that people are arguing about Darnold. Again, I did 16 shows about the season last year. Go back and watch, or just go to Twitter and type in GRB31, and then type in Darnold and then bad thread, and then watch a bunch of plays and feel free to disagree, but he was pretty bad. Your second favorite pick was AVT.
Yes.
Go into that and then give me your third, and then we'll run to.
Yeah. Well, topics. So I love offensive. I love trench play. I mean, I played in the trenches, in college and in high school, and I just love mean, nasty guys. It's just very fun for me to watch, and just watching this Jets offensive line over the last 5-6 years has just been utterly atrocious. And, it makes you want to throw up, and knowing that they might have a guy who's maybe like a borderline Pro Bowl type player for the next, hopefully 10 years, 2 contracts type of guy, maybe 3 contracts type of guy, is very promising. But the reason why I love it even more, and this is part of the reason, like, I think this is something that Robbie Sabo has stressed ad nauseum over recent years. Robbie, if you're listening, shout out to you. Good offensive line play is so important for young quarterbacks. And if you don't have it, it can just destroy them. So, they obviously, Scherf getting franchise tag, Tooney going to the, back-to-back Super Bowl team and the Chiefs, something out of your control. The Jets wanted to address interior offensive line. They didn't see a guy there in free agency who they could really get, but they still managed to do it in the draft. And it was a huge need just because it is a need, but it's also something that's really important. And I stressed this for months on this show. They need offense to help this young quarterback develop, and especially interior offensive line. So, and like I said too, like this guy, I think he's a really safe pick. And I don't know that you can say safe for many interior offensive linemen, because we see so many of them bust. And at the same time, a lot of the really good interior offensive linemen, a lot of those guys come in later rounds in the draft. So, it's a very hit or miss position, but to get a guy where they got him, and thinking about how safe he is and how much he fills a need and how much that's going to help the young quarterback, I'd have to put this number 2.
So your first favorite pick is the first pick, and your second favorite pick is the second pick. What's your third favorite pick? Is your third favorite pick Elijah Moore?
It is.
Of course it is.
But I don't think that yours are going to be that different, though. Maybe you have the order switched up a little bit, but I kind of doubt that you're going to pick. Oh, Michael Carter's my top 3.
No, it's so go on with your with Elijah Moore too, really quickly. We discussed him a lot, so we don't have to get too much into him. But.
So I gotta speed this shit up. But
Kyle's a long-winded talker.
Yeah, and not the most eloquent tonight, that's for sure. But anyway, so.
Apparently I interrupt a lot too, which I just interrupted you too. So it's okay.
I definitely interrupt you more than you interrupt me. So I do apologize for that.
I don't know about that.
Rich Samini's in the chats. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Talking about Sam Darnold having a better winning record than Wilson, and we're year one on a different team with a different roster. Like that has any correlation to who's better. But continue. That's just stupid. Don't acknowledge stupidity. Yeah.
Okay. So part of the listen. The Elijah Moore pick, I kind of liked it when I saw it, just judging on like, what they really could use another receiver, and just kind of like the little bit that I knew about him, knowing that he added another element to the offense, and knowing that this is another piece to help, like they're finally building it right with helping the quarterback. But then when you just watch his film and there's very few weaknesses in his game, another high floor player with, a decently high ceiling too, as well. It's like, holy shit, like, man, like this can be like a really exciting offense this year. And, I'm more of a defensive guy myself. Like I'm the kind of guy who I can watch a 3-6 NFL game and be on the edge of my seat and say like, that was a really good game, because I like some good hard-nosed
those like Ravens
football.
Steelers back in the day, like early 2000s.
Yeah, but the average fan doesn't like that especially because of fantasy football. Oh, my fantasy team didn't score a lot.
The Chiefs Rams game 52-51 or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, that was an insane game in its own right. And don't get me wrong, I like those types of games too. But like, but anyway, I'm more of a defensive guy. But I really wanted them to just go hog wild, knowing that they weren't going to be like legit contenders this year. I really wanted them to stress offense, and that's what they did early on in the drafts. And I think that especially, the second pick, Vera Tucker, and the third pick, Moore, I think they're very safe players. And, yeah, so that's kind of my thing too. I mean, like, and, Vera Tucker, just hearing what I heard about him from the guys like Jeremiah and stuff, he kind of like is like, okay, like he's watching his film. It sounded about what people were saying about him, but Moore, watching his film, it's like, yeah, I think a lot of people were sleeping on this dude. Like obviously every team, I think just about, maybe not the Texans. So most teams passed on this guy, but I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't hear most of draft Twitter hyping this guy up to what I think he actually should have been hyped up to, right? Like, don't you think that most of draft Twitter kind of undervalued him a little bit?
Yeah. I don't really stay up like too much on Twitter.
Me neither. But
yeah, I would say generally like he should have been viewed as a first round receiver. Like a lot of people were talking about like Bateman and Tony.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
As that fourth and fifth guy where I haven't watched their film, but like based on what Elijah Moore is, like speaking for him individually, like should he have been up there with those guys? Undoubtedly. Like his film is very, 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 very good. So I agree with those picks. Like, and it's funny too, because I shit on you for like liking the 1, 2, and 3. The 2 and 3 are my 1 and 2. I liked Wilson and I expected it to be the pick. So like it was expected. So like I'm not going to put that in there. AVT, the trade up for it, the balls to do that, regardless of whatever analytical Twitter has to say about it. You see a elite prospect at guard, a really safe one. You have a young quarterback trade up. Who gives a shit? How many third round picks work out anyway? Like if you hit on one of them, great. And is that worth a AVT to a Darisaw or a Tevin Jenkins? Yeah, Telvin Jenkins. Was it Telvin Jenkins? Tevin Jenkins. Who people are talking about? Oh yeah, you could have got him like Monday morning quarterback them, but they didn't take him at 34. So they clearly didn't like him for a reason. Obviously they had AVT, so maybe that's why they didn't pick him. But regardless, I love the AVT pick. I love the trade up. I love the focus on protecting your quarterback. I love the mindset of Douglas to do that. Elijah Moore, second favorite pick. Again, the guy's film is elite. It just is. He has some things to work on for sure. I said in his show, like I want to see him have to play against press more. I want to see him have to square cut more versus tighter coverage. Like there's sometimes he worked into space a little bit too much in Ole Miss to really evaluate some of those other bricks that he's going to need to do inevitably in the NFL. So like there's some questions I have in there. Now my third, this is probably the third of everybody or most favorite people. I like Hamza as my third. Really? In terms of the value they got in the 6th round with Hamza Nasruddin, like that's a fantastic pick. So I really like that one. I hear
what you're saying.
And then honestly, my fourth one that wasn't even a pick, like just based on everything right now, like in terms of like wherever they got those guys, Isaiah Dunn is my fourth. Like I'm early, but I'm close to planting my flag in that guy, saying he's at least going to be a contributor, which is like, oh my God, he's a contributor. Like how big of a flag is that for
Did UDFA? He have injuries or something?
I don't know why he was undrafted. I don't. After watching, but again, I could watch the next game. He could suck. Like maybe it was a flash in the pan. Or like Buster Screen had some good games, so maybe that's it. But based on the 3 games I watched of Utah, UCLA, and whoever the hell else I said, he should have been drafted in my opinion. So I get why the Jets gave him some good money. I saw it in the chat earlier. I was going to comment on it with Eagle said like, leave it to Jets fans to polish up turds or something like that in terms of like players that are late round picks, like saying how good they are. And he went to mention Chris Herndon. And I remember getting roasted a little bit further that season where like people are like, Chris Herndon's going to be a top 10 tight end. And I watched the film. I did a show about it. I was like, like, what did he really do that like proved anything that rookie year? Like, it was severely overhyped in my opinion. But
and I'm sure that show's archived somewhere, right?
Oh, it's there. It's all recorded and out there.
Yeah.
I did a review on it. I'm sure. So 3 least favorite. We'll go through these and we'll
wait. Did you see the chat? Who would you prefer as a starting quarterback, Joe or Kyle, to build around?
No, I didn't.
And then MM said he'd pick me because I have a great QB beard. Dude, you know how many
QB beard?
You know how many times people called me Ryan Fitzpatrick back in the day, and I was just like, oh god.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, you'd be better. You'd definitely be better than me because you're almost assuredly faster than me and quicker than me. So you could run and make things happen. And I'm almost positive you can throw the ball better than me too. So definitely you.
We met in person. Neither of us are unathletic though. Like, we're both relatively athletic. At least we're not, fat and sloppy. So I think I don't know. Maybe you never know. You could be, who was that guy? Who was that really big, thick quarterback from was it like Oregon or whatever? Like, those highlights were going around like years ago. He was like a ball, like somebody in the chat's gonna know this. He was like a baller and he was massive. I'm not saying you're like massive.
From Oregon?
I don't know what, I really don't. It might've been high school. He was like thick. And he was a dominating dude. So maybe you're bigger than me, but maybe you're, maybe just have that
I can't throw and run and stuff.
So
can you crack a 5 in the 40?
I don't know.
Because I definitely can't.
I don't know.
Definitely can't.
The only, and again, I'm sure there's people in chat like, I could run a 4.6. Okay, you can run a 4.6, sure. I'm not slow. Like with the academy, like I finished number 1 in my class. A lot of it had to do with PT, so I'm definitely not a slow guy. Had to do with sprints and things like that. Can I crack a 5? I don't know. I think I'd be close, but maybe. I'm not sure. Moving on. 3 least favorite picks. 1 to 3. This one's a little bit harder for me, but we'll move through this. Then we're going to talk about some holes. We're going to talk about Darnold's rookie team versus Wilson's. We're going to talk about where the wide receiver group stacks up versus the league. We're going to talk about some D line that the Jets have versus the league. We're going to talk about competitions. We're going to talk about a couple of things in the next but then again, it's us. So we'll get through the wide receiver group versus the league, the next topic, and it'll be an hour and 13 minutes later, and we'll have to get off. So, so let's talk about, maybe when we get to that, we'll get to the biggest holes and we'll be done. 3 least favorite picks, Kyle. Go 1 to 3.
All right. The two off the top of my head that I can go quick. Sherwood is 1. Not that I think he's a better player than my number 2, but I'm factoring value in as well. Was Sherwood was a 4th rounder, right?
5th round, first of the 5th.
Okay, so but he was an early 5th rounder, right? So yeah,
relatively. Yeah.
So Sherwood would be least favorite pick for me. 2 would be Marshall, right, from Arkansas, the defensive lineman.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't like that pick.
Mm-hmm.
I guess 3rd would probably be Eccles, but that's also kind of like, I didn't really see anything to like. I didn't see a lot to hate either, but it's just kind of like, So
yeah, to be honest, we had the same 3. Eccles, and to be honest, after watching him a little bit more, I think I would move Sherwood to my least favorite pick, just based on like his ceiling. Listen, like he communicated pre-snap. Great, great. Eccles 2. Marshall 3. I had the same 3 as you. Even though I like the Marshall pick more than you do, it's just like, does he even make the roster at this point? Like, is he going to be a better player this year than Nathan Shepard? I think they'll probably keep him over Nathan Shepard, but Shepard flashes. Like, he has. You think
they keep him over Nathan Shepard? Really?
I don't know.
I mean, Shepard was a McCagnon pick, so maybe
I got to learn more about Douglas. Like,
and he is old as shit.
Is he that guy? Like, is he the guy this year to cut Zuniga or P. Ryan? Like, is he that guy? I don't know. Which we'll talk about coming up. Probably not in this show. So we had the 3 least favorite. We're not going to harp on that because people don't like negativity. We'll get downvotes.
By the way, did you see anyone? Is this just me falsely remembering something that I saw on Twitter? But did you see anybody comparing Sherwood to why am I forgetting his name? The big hitter, Cam Chancellor from Seattle, because Salah was in Seattle with Cam Chancellor. Did you see anyone making that comp? Or
No.
was that just me making some shit up in my head?
You're either
'Cause
making shit up or you saw something that I didn't see, but he is not Cam Chancellor.
exactly. All
He's
right.
not Cam Chancellor. He's not, dude. His
Let's just put
mindset's-
that out there right now. Any of you guys who might have thought that.
Yeah, to really live bold, Sherwood is not Cam Chancellor. Even though just a mindset, like you could say, Hamza Nasruddin is that's the much closer comparison, just in terms of mindset. But like Sherwood is not an aggressive player. Like he might lay a hit, but in terms of like taking on blockers, and like there are times, like I said, like in the show, like he took on a guy who's 300 pounds, like used like relatively good leverage, his hands, like he has some strength. But in terms of like really like being uber aggressive, he's not that guy. He's just not. Like you watch his film and like you don't have to know anything. Just watch him around piles. Like he's not that guy to dive into a pile. If he thinks the tackle's made, he's not going to dive into it. Like Hamza, like Jamal, like Cam, like a lot of those guys.
There's nothing, honestly, I could say there's really nothing that he does like well. I wouldn't say that he excels in any area. Like
nothing's
like Pinnock. You can say Pinnock has got a lot of flaws in his game, but his hands, when he gets it right near the line of scrimmage, it is sexy.
His like, strength and press at the line of scrimmage when he gets it right is really, really good. And I'm
Sherwood, like I'm trying to think, like, does this dude like he made a couple nice plays, like they threw a screen and like he got in there in a hurry, defeated a block, but it was like a shitty block. Like the receiver's throwing his hands outside and stuff.
Maybe we could argue like pre-snap recognition, like maybe.
But how far is it going to get you at the next level?
To be honest, like I didn't see it enough to make it a true strength, and like we don't know what his assignment was. Like if he was reading 2-1, or he was supposed to read that guy, and like he saw him bubbling out, like, and that's his only read, then yeah, he should shoot that. But was that his read, or was that awareness? Was that instincts? Like there are some things, like you could see a cover 3, you could see a cover 4, you could see, a cover 7, or like what I put out the other day, like, the palms coverage, the 2 read, whatever you want to call it. Like you could see those things and mostly be right. But there are so many plays like where we might assume something where the defense could act for something different. So like if again, so were some of the plays pre-snap recognition? Sure. But we don't know.
Yeah.
And the fact that he moves his hands and communicates a lot, great. He communicates, but we're not going to. Let's get off of that.
Dude, and last little point about him. How bad was he? Either was straight man or man match when someone went a little bit vertical and then did like a deep over, and he had to trail him from one side of the field to the other. Just how slow did he look, bro?
He doesn't have the athleticism, dude. Like people are talking about it, like, oh, he's a really athletic new age linebacker.
No.
What
dude, watch this guy trying to chase the dude from one side of the field to the other, especially when they go deep. Dude, you will get yards of separation. Like you're talking at the next level of the NFL, receiver will have enough time to slow down, catch a ball, and then run away from him. He's that slow.
Yeah, the acceleration, the speed's not there. I'm concerned. I don't love the pick. That's my least favorite pick of the draft. It just is. We're not here to hype everybody up. After the draft, and we still have time to address these holes, and I think everybody would agree at this point. What are the biggest holes on the Jets roster? What would you say is the biggest hole on the roster?
Corner, right? Corner, you would say so?
Yes.
Corner. I mean, you can't say backup quarterback. I mean, that's a huge hole, but I mean, we're talking about starters and stuff. Yeah, definitely cornerback. I mean, dude, it's nice in a way that, like, I'm glad that they're not signing a bunch of older free agents and giving them all like decent contracts, because, I say this all the time, but just like older corners, eventually they just hit a wall and then they just go to shit. But they're taking many shots at the dartboard, and just if they can hit on 1 or 2 of these cornerbacks and Hall can continue to develop, okay, you got some kind of a future there. But I mean, you still need to get some type of proven guy out there. At least one. I mean, it's still going to be a weak position group even after that.
What are your thoughts on Sherman versus Nelson? Do you have a preference? Would you look into signing both of those guys?
I don't want to act like I watched a lot of Nelson in my life, and to me, it's a little concerning that he's still not on a team. Like if teams were that high on him, I think he'd be on a team right now. Now, apparently, his asking price is higher than what teams are offering, but if he was that high of a commodity, someone would have given him something that's in his asking price at this point.
Especially after the draft unfolded, and you missed that corner maybe you thought was going to fall to you in round 2 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I will always yield to you on cornerback play. You understand that way more than I do. And I think you relatively like him from my understanding, relatively.
Based on what I've heard, but again, like looking at like, we did the Chiefs before, didn't really succeed with the Chiefs, went to the Steelers, had a good year or two. But like, do I think he's like one of these upper echelon number ones? Like, no, based on what I've heard and seen, and the longevity of his good play is concerning. And to be honest, like, I don't even necessarily want the corner for like this year because like I don't think the Jets are really going anywhere in terms of like deep run in the playoffs. And a lot of people talk about like let the young guys play, which to a certain extent I agree with. But I think bringing a guy in like Sherman, to me, again, will he sign here? He probably wants to go to a playoff team. We all know that. But like if there aren't any options, the playoff team is offering $6 million and the Jets are offering 10, maybe he chooses the Jets. But I would argue that Sherman, even though the guys get lack of playing time, I think he helps progress the young guys more than he doesn't. But with them just getting playing time, I think.
Yeah, I'd love for him to be able to coach a guy.
That's
like
why. That's why I want Sherman, and maybe Nelson does too. But like I want it for the long term of helping. Yeah, exactly. Pinnock learning from Sherman and Hall learning from Sherman. Guys have similar athleticism. Would be great, like absolutely great. So I would really, really love to sign Sherman. What would you be willing to go with in terms of like a contract for Sherman? Would you be willing to go $9-10 million for 1 year? The Jets have about, I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, like 27 ish. But I think they still have to sign like Wilson and all these guys. So maybe they have 15 million, let's say, to spend.
And you need to keep. If I remember from my conversations with Miguel at Pat's Cap on Twitter, salary cap wizard. If I remember correctly, I think he said something along the lines of, you need to keep yourself around 10 million in the season just to sign guys due to injuries and things like that. And to keep yourself safe. So that's something also. 10 seems like a lot for me, man. If they could keep it all for this year to not roll it over into future years, that seems like it's a little bit more doable for me, because I don't want that number to affect future years and future signings and things like that. But 10 still seems like a high number for me. I don't think I'd want to go like above like 8-ish or something like that.
I think I'd be okay with like 9, just for what he'd bring to the team, and like as long as they're comfortable with their cap, because like a certain amount of cap you can roll over. Or like let's say whatever the cap is set to 200 million next year. It doesn't just like reset every year.
It should probably be a big increase though, because I know it was.
I'm just saying in general, like you can roll over a certain amount of your cap. Like you don't just, let's say everybody starts at 2 million a year. Like if teams don't spend enough the year before, they can actually have like 205, 206, 207 as a cap. So you actually roll over, getting more space in years past that next year. That's maybe not the best necessarily way to explain it, but you can roll over actual percentage that you're allowed to spend in other years. So a lot of people don't really necessarily always understand that. So if it doesn't really necessarily like hugely affect that, as long as they're below that number, then Sherman's definitely a guy I would like to bring in. 9-ish million I'm cool with.
Going to Steven Nelson for one moment, there's something that came to my mind. I feel like fan bases that, hump the PFF stats or something like that, and they just, I don't know, like hump like previous accolades of players or whatever. They just get in their mind like, oh, we really need this guy because he really fits a need for us. And they just keep clamoring over and over, sign this guy, sign it. Yeah, I remember, especially when I was following a lot more Dolphins back when I did my show. The Dolphins had a really bad offensive line for a really long time. And there was a guard from the Eagles, Evan Thomas, I think his name is, if you remember him, long hair type of guy. He was like a PFF darling type of player, like always graded high in their system. And he was a free agent and he wasn't signing with anyone. And he was old. He was like 33, 34. And Dolphins fans just would not shut the hell up. Like, we need to sign Evan Thomas. We need to sign Evan Thomas. We need to sign Evan Thomas. And I'm feeling like this whole Steven Nelson thing is like the same thing with the Jets fans. Like, let's sign Steven. And I'm just wondering how many of you guys have actually watched Steven Nelson's film last year, because he could have a big dip off. I mean, like Revis, 2015 Revis was pretty good for most of the season. 2016 Revis was god awful all year.
Yeah, first half of 2015 he was pretty good, but then when he met like DeAndre Hopkins and Sammy Watkins and stuff, he struggled.
So with Steven Nelson, I'm not doubting that he was good early on in his tenure with the Steelers, but there's a reason why they released him, and they released him. They cut him. This is not like a guy whose contract expired. They got rid of him, right? And I don't know that. I mean, they still have old Joe Hayden there. Like, who else do they have at corner, right, with the Steelers? I mean, maybe they have some other guys that I'm just unaware.
Not much of anything I could think off the top of my head.
So I mean, like that's a little telling to me. So like you Jets fans that want to break the bank for this guy, like maybe just slow your roll a little bit.
Yeah. Somebody asked in the chat, I think it was maybe it was Steven who asked, do I see two of the 4 UDFAs on the offensive line making the team? Maybe one of the tackles I could see, because the Jets don't really have a lot of tackles. But in terms of like interior guys, like listen, the Jets don't have the best guys with like Feeney and Lewis and GVR and Clark, but like they have some decent depth at the minimum at guard. I would argue, like let's say it's Clark, Feeney, and Lewis. Like, do I think any of those the UDFAs are going to be out one of those guys? I don't. So maybe one of the tackles. I would say maybe one. So yeah, Sherman, I think we agree on that. Some people are saying $4 to $6 million. He's not signing for $4 to $6 million or $4 to $6 million. He's going to be a 7, 8, 9 guy, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Backup quarterback, you talked about, that's another one. People are talking about Mullins or Foles. I think those are probably the 2 best options. Do you have a preference? What would you trade for Foles? I think you're taking on, like, again, I'm not big on like the numbers and all that stuff, like $7-8 million this year, like maybe like 6 or 7 next year, something like that. So would you be willing?
I'd rather go with Mullins, to be honest.
And a lot of people talk about is it Evan Mathis you're talking about? Somebody
Evan Mathis. There you go.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily like, do I really care? So there's two sides to this coin. Do I really care about winning games if Wilson goes down? Like, is that my primary concern for a backup quarterback? No, because I don't think the Jets are really winning anything this year. Next year, maybe it's more important. But now there's that line of, okay, well, is that backup quarterback like Luke Falk, like whoever the Jets have had in recent years, are they so bad they're stunting development of, the receivers, the tight ends, because they can't get the ball out, Yes, there's that part of it, but I also think Mullins is above that threshold where he's not so bad where you're gonna stunt the development of your other guys. So I would also prefer to sign Mullins, less money, no draft capital traded. So Mullins is my option 1. Whatever it would be, $2-3 million, a year for Mullins, sign him for a couple of years. And Foles is my secondary option, trade a 6th or 7th for him, take on that contract. But I agree with you that Mullins is my 1A.
Yeah. And by the way, the thing with Mullins, I think Mullins, most of him not succeeding is he just doesn't give you anything athletically, either in terms of movement ability or in terms of him as a passer. So he's just, when you wanted to talk about guys that have started a decent amount of games over recent years, probably the least athletic guy in the league to start a decent amount of games in recent years.
Joe Flacco?
But Kyle Shanahan would always talk about how well he knew the system. And I get it that coaches will oftentimes praise their players and stuff. But I mean, to keep him as the backup for as long as they did and stuff. And you have to think, Mullins was on that roster before Kyle Shanahan even got there, if I'm not mistaken. Like I think he was with what the hell they had before Shanahan came to San Fran. They had some dude who was like a defensive line coach who, what was his name? Who really shouldn't have been. This was after Harbaugh, and he was only 1 year as the coach, and he was really bad, and everyone criticized him. Why did they hire this guy? Why did they hire this guy? But I'm pretty sure Mullins was on the roster. His first year, he was on the roster when that guy was there. But I think the Niners gave him a little contract extension. For Shanahan to have not previously worked with him, but to kind of see what he could do, I think that's kind of telling that he did trust that guy from a mental aspect. And I do think that, I think the Jets system will probably be a little bit more San Fran based than Green Bay based. And I think that having Mullins to teach this specific system would be more helpful than Foles. Maybe this is irrational, what I'm about to say, but Foles has been, listen, the dude won a Super Bowl. All right. He beat the Patriots. There are still a lot of people that believe in Foles for whatever reason. And God forbid if Wilson struggled
Yeah.
and some fans started clamoring, Foles.
Oh, dude, please do
wouldn't
not be
want
sitting next to me
something
in
like
a
that.
game. If you're sitting next to me in a game, you're gonna start yelling Foles. I gotta move sections. Let's say I can't get in trouble at Jets games.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're not going to get that shit with Mullins. So that's another reason why I'd rather have
and
him
that's
too.
what somebody mentioned, trading a 6 for Minshew. Minshew's another guy who wants to start and might not necessarily be the best. Like, and the Mullins thing is like the system, like teaching the system, because like what is Wilson learning from Mike White or James Morgan? I'm not sure. So I want Mullins.
He'd be teaching them, if anything.
Yeah, I would agree with you that Mullins is my guy. Sherman's my guy. So we're pretty lockstep on that one. I'm going to bring up the linebackers and guys who you might want at
Should
linebacker.
we answer the super chat?
We're gonna answer the super chat 100%.
Okay.
We'll do that. We'll do that first. Do that. Actually, no, he's super chatted, so I'm gonna answer it too. After that, I gotta hit the bathroom real quick. But you're gonna take over for a second. We will answer the super chat. Let's see. Big Green, you mentioned thoughts on PFF rankings for the guys in the trenches. I don't have a subscription. I don't follow PFF, so I don't know what the rankings were, to be completely honest. Somebody
Ask Michael Nania. He'll know.
So Corey Washington, appreciate the super chat. Again, helps the website, helps a lot of things. Again,
That sounds like a football player's name.
People who hate the fan, I'll get a backdrop for you. I'll get a pen I can draw on the screen, all that stuff. So somebody, so he asked, Corey Washington, what is the best possible corner lineup you think will be starting when camp is over? So day one, base, 2 guys outside and then nickel. And honestly, the nickel, not to try to get the question, I think they might be doing big nickel where it's, Joyner or Ashton Davis dropping into the slot, or even May over that third corner. But and somebody asked about before too about Guidry versus Michael Carter II. So let's just stick with base, nickel, not big nickel or anything like that, anything fancy. So what would you say the best 2 and 3
which corner? Like you said, the Michael Carter was impressing in OTAs.
That's what I've heard. But again, minus some people, like who was watching it, do they know what they're watching? Some people said it before, like, oh, Elijah Moore, what's your thoughts on the report that he's the best player in camp? Who is telling you that? Do they know what they're watching? And do they know what they're watching on the offensive line to say who's the best on that defensive line, linebackers? Like, is he the most flashy? Sure, but the best, I'm not sure. I'm not there. I can't tell you. Would it surprise me? No, but
and I haven't watched any of this dude that you really like too. Who's a corner, right?
You're going to be impressed.
What's his name again?
Isaiah Dunn. You'll be impressed.
And what could he be a slot corner or no?
Something I said before too. I forgot to get to it actually. So it's a good point. I think he can play slot and outside. I think he's like 6 foot. He has the movement skills for inside, but he can also play outside because he's relatively tough guy. Like I think he'd compete with guys on the outside.
Okay.
Eagle said PFF rated May better than Jamal, but let's be honest. If we had one guy on the field on Sunday, minus everything that comes with him, Jamal Adams is a better player than Marcus May.
Yeah. There's a reason why Jamal Adams went for 2 1s and a 3, which is A, because he is a good player, but B, also because the Seahawks are dumbasses. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, May wouldn't go for anything close to that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, at all. You couldn't get the biggest sucker in the league to come anywhere close to that. Dude, I still think Guidry's got a good shot to be the slot corner this year.
He played well in 2-3 games that he started. Like he from what I saw, and again, there were certain times of last year where, to be completely honest, I tapped out a little bit. Like those last years of Gase, like there were some times I maybe didn't pay attention to stuff as much as I should have. So maybe I should go back and review some Guidry. But I think that battle between him and Mike Carter II is going to be a good battle because Guidry is UDFA, but like his thing coming out of college was, uber athletic, but you pair that with actual good play, which has to include some technicality in terms of your play, your footwork, your hands, understanding of coverages, things like that. And he played well. So, now you pair that with good play, times that elite speed that he has, like maybe it is Guidry, but so let's just go with your base.
Hall definitely be, like one of the corners that you're going to see on the boundary. And then I have to say that the other cornerback is not currently on the roster, probably, right? It'd probably be like Sherman or something.
Yeah, if
like
it
that.
were on the roster, who would you? It's that number 2. Like people
I have a
like,
hard time thinking it's going to be Pinnock.
That's all I hear is, oh, bring back Poole, bring back Poole. One, again, he played under what is it called? Brick, the DC the Jets have with the Falcons. So obviously they have some type of idea of what they want to do, and maybe he doesn't fit that. But like, I feel much more confident in, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel much more confident in Guidry versus Carter II in the slot, or being able to play Ashton Davis or Marcus Joyner in the slot and big nickel versus me feeling comfortable with that second outside corner, starting spot. Am I comfortable even with Hall having to be a number 1 or 2 this year? No, I'd rather have him be a 4 on a good team, but I am not confident in number 2 spot. That's bad news, Bears.
How much of Joyner's film have you watched?
All of it.
All of it. And
I watched 2 games of him in the slot with the Raiders last year.
So that was going to be my question, because apparently, according to the PFF stats, which I think one area that they're pretty bad at scoring is safety play. And I think, dude, and let me say this again about PFF. I saw that Jordan Poyer recently shat on PFF, and I think Poyer is a pretty good safety in this league. And
hold on. I'm going to interrupt you really quickly. Again, we both interrupt each other, but it's all good. Jack Kenna, why no Poole? Other teams want him. Based on what? He's not on a team. It's June, but okay, continue. Sorry. Clearly they want him badly.
So, Poyer was recently shitting on PFF, and he said something along the lines of, listen, when they're grading, they're really not accounting for the teams and specific players' responsibilities. And Eric Turner, who I know you have a great deal of respect for, as do I, he said Jordan Poyer ain't lying. And I'm just speaking from personal experience. I know a former student that I had who loved football and he loved stats and he watched highlights, but he didn't know shit about basic, coverage responsibilities and stuff like that. I don't know if he ended up getting a job with PFF, but he definitely got a second interview. So you got to think about the types of guys that are crunching these numbers on a weekly
even knowing
basis.
like cover 3 versus 2 versus 4 is like, that's like the basic stuff. Like there's so much more than that.
Exactly.
Like man match versus zone match versus base, base just man versus, spot dropping versus, so many things.
So my point is saying, like, I think like, especially when you talk about coverage responsibilities, I think it's much easier to screw up with grading like that. Like sometimes their safety grading's way off. Like apparently, remember when we had LaRon Landry? He apparently always scored very well with them.
Like a top 10 safety. We talked about that earlier. Like what?
Yeah. Versus like, I think one area that PFF is pretty good at grading is like edge rushers and guys who get a lot of pressures and stuff. I always felt like their grades were pretty good in that area, but that's something that's pretty easy to quantify.
Isn't Trey Hendrickson graded high? Watch his sacks. Like it literally
I honestly couldn't tell you if he's
when he was like brought in there, or the Jets were like talking about bringing him in, like whatever. Like, okay, I'm not going to do a full film breakdown. So I did watch his highlights. I'm like, let's see some of his sacks. Like in the highlights, did it show him beating his guy? And like 6 of the first sacks I watched were all hustle sacks where the quarterback was holding on to the ball for like 5 seconds. I'm like, please God, Jets, do not sign this guy for anything. And I said it in the Slack. I think Sabo could attest for it. I said like nothing more than like $7-8 million. Like that's the max I'm willing to go with him.
Way more than that, right?
He got like 14, 15.
Yeah,
crazy.
Like double. So I don't even know how I got off on the tangent about grading safeties and defensive.
Because you were asking about LaMarcus Joyner for some reason.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there we go. So Joyner apparently graded way better as playing as a high safety versus down in the slot. And I'm asking if those numbers match up with what your eyes saw.
Yeah. I watched a lot of him at safety because that's where the Jets are going to be playing him. So like I didn't watch enough in the slot. Like I watched 2 games. I don't think he was brutal in the slot, but yeah, he's more of a safety who could play slot than a slot guy who could play safety. Like simply like, and I'll go over that a lot in the review. And like to be completely transparent, like, and it happens a lot with me where like people like ask me questions on the fly and I'm like, I watched that guy like 700 plays ago. Like, do I remember exactly what I'm talking about with him? So like, I'm going to go over some of the plays I'm going to put in the review, obviously, and I'm going to break it down play by play, but like from the top of my head, he didn't play terribly in the slot. Like he did not play terribly. Like the numbers indicated, at least in my opinion. But I don't know. I have no idea why the Raiders moved him from what he was doing at free safety, because he was pretty damn good with the Rams. But the one thing that was weird, and again, this was like kind of like, wasn't this like a PFF thing with Blake Cash? Like he didn't miss any tackles, and like the first play, like we both laughed about it. I watched, he missed the tackle. Joyner, I think he had pretty good tackling numbers. I didn't. He actually has some issues tackling for me. But
how can they be so big and put out such a bold stat like that? Like that is a big bold stat. Like this guy didn't miss any tackles. Like
the first play I watched, he missed.
Like you're talking hundreds of thousands of followers, and you're gonna put out such a serious stat like that, and then you're that wrong about it. Like.
Yeah,
it's just kind of beyond me, but whatever.
Yeah, so let's go answer that question quick. I'm gonna throw to the linebacker in the need.
I shared my thoughts about some of these players. Why don't you kind of?
No, you didn't. But so you danced, but you didn't answer the question. So
okay, so
base nickel, go. Who's your best 2 versus 3? Go. Hit it.
So we're talking standard nickel package.
Standard nickel package.
Are we talking like?
Standard nickel package, go.
Yeah, but like I'm starting to think, okay, so if they're gonna have all right, so we're gonna have what's his face on the field? Bryce Hall, okay. Guidry, all right.
Okay.
Marcus May is definitely gonna be deep. Joyner and did I say Guidry?
You said Guidry in the slot.
Okay.
You said May. He was talking about the corners, but safety is good too. Because I think Joyner right now is a better player than Ashton Davis. Who a lot of people, again, that was another one last year where I came out and me and Marcus watched. We were like, yeesh, like he has a lot of stuff to work on. Athleticism and everything. Like, what the hell, bro? Like, all these big guys say.
Yeah, well, if we're talking standard nickel package, I'm thinking of the 5 best defensive backs that I want on the field, and those are the 4 names that came to my mind quickest.
Okay, so who is playing the slot? Not big nickel corner. You're playing. It's basically so the question is basically who is the outside and who is the slot, because we know May and Joyner, but at least in my opinion, maybe it's some Davis.
But the problem is you told me I can't pick. I got to pick someone who's currently on the roster when I don't think the other outside guy is on the roster.
If I said if,
and I don't, and Pinnock is an outside guy, but I don't see this guy starting outside of training camp at all.
It is such a hard question to answer because there's like really nobody. Like, is it Bless Austin? But like Bless Austin is terrible.
Yeah, no, there's no way I don't care how many games he started in the league or how athletic he is. There's no way you will get me to put my name on Bless Austin.
To be honest, like, oh
man, one of the most overhyped Jets players. And dude, my brother loves to, because my brother's a Bills fan, so he loves shitting on the Jets. My brother loves making fun of how much Jets fans overhype Bless Austin.
He's terrible. So Jack Hanna, Joyner can't play the slot. Facts. Jack, in the next 10 seconds, I want you to tell me what are his weaknesses in the slot and what you saw on film. Go. Let's see it. So moving on.
I'm wondering how much, because we keep thinking that the Jets are going to play a lot of 1 high safety and May's really good in that role, but I'm wondering how much 2 high shells they're going to have this year. And the NFL,
think
and the
based
NFL's
on who they have, they might be playing 2.
Yeah, and the NFL, like, so 5, 6, 7 years ago, it was a lot more single high, but it's and the NFL goes and ebbs and flows. It's shifting back to more 2 high.
I think it's going to be a healthy mix of like 2, 4. I'm going to name pretty much all the coverages 2, 4, 1, 6. Like I think it's all going to be there. But I think like based on the athleticism that they have with these guys, like it's going to be. I think 2 is good, whether it be man or zone, because of Pinnock, because of Bless Austin. But I would say like
So I'm really not trying to dance around your question too, but what also makes it harder for me is I didn't watch this other defensive back that you love. I barely watched any of Eccles. So like, who the hell is going to be that other outside guy? And it's tough for me.
Jack, I'm sorry. I don't know if this is your first time here, but this is the kind of stuff that we call out. So I asked for a reason. I asked for weaknesses based on what you watch on film. The reason, which is 95% of Twitter's reasoning, is he can't cover. Look at his pass coverage grades. That's it. So PFF is the Bible. For base, dude, I don't know who's gonna do that too. I'm gonna say
PFF is those books of the Bible that weren't included in the scriptures because they were considered apocryphal.
So obviously it's Hall. I'm gonna say Guidry over Carter right now just because of his experience, but Carter might compete for that. I would say and I said this last year, I think I'd rather bank on, oh God, it depends on the coverage. I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. I'm gonna say right now at this very moment, I would rather have Isaiah Dunn outside over Bless Austin, me projecting was going to be. But I'm going to say for right now, I would rather have Lamar Jackson outside than Bless Austin starting. I think he played better than Bless Austin, minus the one big player we're going to talk about and bring up in the chat, whatever. Right now, I would say Lamar Jackson, Hall, and Guidry. I also think the starting guy's not on the roster.
I'll agree with you on Lamar Jackson, and I didn't even like Lamar Jackson. And based on what I saw last year, that's how much I dislike Bless Austin as a player. And I haven't watched one snap of this guy who you're talking about, but based on what I know about what you know about corners and how much also I dislike Bless Austin, I will also agree with you there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the
go ahead.
bathroom. So
and
quickly,
turn on your light too, because it got dark in your room.
Dude, people hate that I have the light on. It's gonna bother them too. So I'm almost willing to just be completely dark right now. Give me in the chat. Do you want the light on, or do you try to? You can see my face. That's all that matters, right?
Well, I don't care. I'm just saying.
They're probably going to floating head. So get into the linebacker position. Update me quickly on as I get back. But the linebacker position, who do you feel like they should sign? Needs, etc. I'll be back in literally 2 seconds. I'm a Raiders fan. Watch the tape, Jack. Come on, bro. Go ahead.
I'm a Raiders fan. Watch the tape. All right, Jack. Well, my question for you is, why are you in the Jets thing then? Is it because of Joyner? I don't know. I mean, listen, I haven't watched much of Joyner yet, but I am interested to see what Joe's film review, because he does really good stuff, especially with defensive backs. In terms of linebackers, I don't think the Jets are as bad as some people are saying. CJ Mosley, I think, is going to be a big upgrade. I don't know how long he's going to be on the Jets roster, but I think he's going to be a really good player this year.
He picked off Wilson during the last practice, sort of.
Oh, nice. What was the concept and stuff that they were running?
It was around the 5, so it was red zone, and we're not supposed to tell concepts and certain things like that, not to get too deep.
Okay.
But it looked like he was coming off the right edge and just slipped it. He dropped back towards the middle, and Zach Wilson did not see him.
So did he bait him? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't catch his first move. I just caught like the tail end, and I knew he drifted back from kind of the right area where I think Wilson saw him going, thought he was going to the flat, but didn't. So I don't know if he baited him completely, but it was a nice veteran move.
I remember a couple years back, Mosley was obviously with the Ravens, and he baited Andy Dalton in the red zone. I think he was faking that he was blitzing, dropped off, and picked him off right in the end zone.
Mosley?
He's savvy like that. So you were talking about linebackers, and Robbie was saying that Mosley picked off Wilson in the end zone.
Yeah, he got him. He got him pretty good.
So that's really all I got into at that point. But I was just saying, how
yeah, Joe, that was quick as hell, man.
Actually, I grabbed the beer too. So I'm not gonna get into the that, but yeah. It was quick. Yeah. So hold on. So this is for the watch the film comment. Let me just look through here. Where is Joyner? Let's see. Okay. So this is all coming to you from Joyner. So I've watched it. Have you? That's a question, but continue. Oh, the linebackers. You talk about Mosley. I'm gonna try to find that play now that you talked about it actually. But
which play are you gonna try to find? The Andy Dalton one?
Yeah, I think I might have that.
Okay. Yeah, pull that up if you got that. While you pull that up, I'll ask. So Jack is the Raiders fan.
We have to stop paying. I get mad at people, but then I say don't pay attention to those type of people, and then I do it anyway. So I don't live by my word.
All right. And by the way, that was clutch. I just started talking, and then Robbie just came in, and then I think it was Eagle who just called him God Saba.
He just comes in from nowhere. Yeah, just speaks it.
I was like, oh, okay. Did you find the play?
I don't know. Continue to talk. This is from literally 2 years ago. So
yeah. So, My thing with linebacker, I think you're probably a little bit more concerned. And I don't know if after watching Hamza that you're a little bit less concerned with the Jets' current linebacking core than I am. I'm not as concerned about it, I think, as some other people are personally. And Davis, here's my thinking. I think that Davis, I think they have a very specific role that they want to put him in. And I'm not smart enough to know exactly what that's going to be. But I remember this was their first signing, right? And if I'm not mistaken, maybe the contract was close to fully guaranteed. They're about $7 million 1 year.
Yeah.
Now it could be hit or miss.
$5 million guaranteed.
Could be hit or miss, but I think they're going to plug them into a very specific role. And we know that Saleh and Ulbrich have a very good track record of developing linebackers. And I think that if you put him in a role where he doesn't have to think a lot and he could just play with his hair on fire, and let's be honest, the coaching in Detroit was really bad.
Yeah.
It was really, really, really bad. A lot of players, would testify to that. What's his face? Darius Slay wanted out. Look at how bad Jeff Okudah played last year, man. You want to talk about a player who's, got really high reviews and things like that. I mean, everybody was just shitting on Patricia as a coach. So Davis, I mean, I'm not acting like he's going to be good and stuff, but like when you combine CJ Mosley, who's definitely a top 10 linebacker in the league, the potential of Davis, which you got in Hamza, who you're saying is one of your top 3 favorite picks, I'm not overly concerned with our linebacking core personally.
Yeah, I think it's wow. I'm watching this as it comes up, but the fact I'm sorry I just Googled it, but the fact that
I can't really see that. Oh,
now you can. The fact that they're up 20 without James Harden right now is saying a lot, but I cannot wait to watch that after we're done with here because I recorded it and then I was like, I'm not going to know the score, but then I saw it. So I saw it like tweeted a couple of minutes ago, so I wanted to check it live. But I'm concerned, but not, I guess, too much. I think Mosley, and I think this is somewhere where me or Sabo and I disagree a little bit, where he's not very sure and he won't bank on anything. I'm pretty confident to say that Mosley is going to be a top 15 inside linebacker again, which isn't, maybe it's not as bold as I'm making it out to be.
Sabo is not sure that he will be.
Yeah, I know he is a little bit more concerned with like his 2 years off.
I'm just concerned with the 2 years off.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like he does have a leg up because of what's between the ears, is Joe's point, and I agree with him. But it could be anyone. 2 years off, I'll be concerned.
So with that being said, thank you, God Sabo, my Lord and Savior. So moving on. I like you said with Davis, I said in the review, like him not thinking, that Sam role, taking on blockers, things like that, simple coverages, maybe matching up with a tight end and man, like things you don't have to really think about. And that's what he kind of said in his interview. And I hate really player interviews, but sometimes I do watch them. He said like this scheme is going to allow him to just play and like not think and like let him be the athlete that he is. So I think he will pop a little bit, and like just looking at him compared to the Jets, core last year, like, Hewitt seeing a lot of snaps. I think he's gonna be better than him. So like I have some faith in Davis. Mosley definitely have some faith in. I am relatively concerned with the Will spot because I like Hamza's film, but he also was a 6th-round pick for a reason. That's mostly because of medicals. So how healthy is he going to be? We know I'm not a big fan of Sherwood. So if it's not one of those two guys in year one, obviously they could take him off the field and then, substitute in Davis and big nickel or Joyner and big nickel, whoever it may be. So maybe, the fact that they have some safety depth can kind of decrease the concern I have at that spot. In terms of like base personnel, I'm a little bit concerned with Will. Because again, it's you have rookies there, so not a huge concern, but it is something to mention for me. And if I could, I would like to see a guy like Quan Alexander brought in. He has a familiarity. I believe he played under one of the coaches.
He was in San Fran. So
yeah, okay, San Fran.
Yeah.
So he's with San Fran. You play him at will, depending on his health. Or you bring in a KJ Wright, maybe KJ Wright at this point is like going to just go back to Seattle for a lesser price. But like KJ Wright, you put him at Sam, and then you let Davis be your run and chase guy because he has that lateral athleticism. He has that athleticism, whether it be chase down, lateral, whatever.
I would much rather go with KJ Wright. I mean, based on what I saw last year, I mean, like he's definitely not what he once was, but this is still a quality player from what I saw last year. And I ain't the authority, but Quan has got some injury histories, and I never even thought he was that good to begin with. If we're talking about the peak of what they ever achieved at their careers, KJ definitely the better player.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I would like one of those guys again. I wouldn't break the bank. The only other thing than that is I would say and obviously backup tackle, I think is a need. Like we can go through the whole roster. They still listen, we're talking about the biggest needs. Like they could use a backup tackle. They could use a tight end. They could use even more running backs. They could use a lot of things. We're talking the biggest needs. Other than that, I would say probably right guard, right now, maybe if they could, I don't think they're really going to do anything right now. And I think people tend to be a little bit stubborn, with their preconceived notions or ideas about George Fant. People are keep bringing up right tackle, but he's a average to below average tackle. If that's your worst player in a year or two, he's not a bad player. Maybe he can regress to the mean, but at the same time, I would say,
what do they want them to do? Sign Mitchell Schwartz or something? Well,
no. What's the guy from who just got cut from I have his name in here somewhere because I will bring it up later. But people were talking about bringing in Morgan Moses from the Redskins. He was cut.
Okay.
I haven't watched him though. So
by the way, Mitchell Schwartz. You want to talk about a guy who's been really good over recent years? His medical must be really bad. If he hasn't been signed at this point yet, because to be that good for as long as he was and still not have a team at this point. But that almost, if he wasn't in that state of condition, that would kind of be intriguing. But then again, it wouldn't be the best look for Joe Douglas as a GM to kind of bail on one of your signings after 1 year to pick up a guy who's coming off a big injury.
Now, could that be and we'll talk about this later. Well, we're not talking about this now. It's going to be later on in our next live stream. But could it be a kind of a little bit of insurance for Becton, because listen, and I don't want to overreact to it, but he's already dealing with weight and some nagging injuries. He missed some games. A lot of the games he might have, he started 13 games, but how many of those games did he play a couple of snaps and
was it 13 or was it more?
I don't know, 13, 14.
I feel like it was 14 or 15.
Okay. But even if how many of those 14 or 15 did he play 2 snaps so he got the start, but then missed the rest of the snaps?
Yeah.
So the fact that he's dealing, and then you heard Saleh come out and say that, listen, he has to learn how to control his weight. So is it a Becton thing, And then Kyle, we both know, I'm 28. You're what, 30 now? Or
I'll be 32 in about a month.
Yeah, you'll be 32 in a month. So we know it doesn't get easier to lose weight as you get 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So if he's battling weight issues now, it's only your metabolism is only going to slow down.
Did they say that he got close to 380 at the end of last season?
I don't know.
I feel like I heard that.
But
that's concerning.
Saleh's somebody find me the direct quote, but he did say something basically to wrap it up, saying he has to learn how to control his weight and his body and things like that. So if he's getting injuries, because of that, it's a concern. That's one of the reasons I hinted to before. I didn't buy his jersey because he's top 10 left tackle probably coming into this year, in terms of what he is. But is this going to be a problem?
Yeah, and that is concerning for me too. And some quick little thoughts that I got on that whole situation. We heard so much about how Mekhi Becton kind of working with Duke Manyweather and totally redid his diet, and he's eating really, really, really clean and stuff like that. And we heard that, and it makes sense. You do that in the pre-draft process because you want to get drafted before you get this big old contract. I haven't heard any shit about him eating really clean recently, which leads me to believe that maybe, just maybe, he fell off and he's on mom's good old home cooking, because remember, mom is a chef for a living, so maybe he's not eating as healthy as he once was when he was training before the draft process. I don't know that for sure. I'm just speculating right now, but that is concerning.
Brian Javits said Costello said he was overweight all season versus what the Jets wanted. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But again, it's concerning that Saleh already came out and said, he has to learn like a veteran, how to control his body, so, and it doesn't get easier. And if you're already battling, and I'm not throwing up a massive red flag and waving it, but it is a concern. It has to be. You're battling injuries already because of your weight. Your joints are taking on pressure that they're not made to take on. They're just not. No matter how big you are, how strong your joints are, whatever. Like, it's just not made for it. So you're going to battle some ankle issues. You're going to battle some knee issues. You're going to battle some foot issues. So it
can be hard
how long
to
is he
stay
going to
on
last?
a diet. It can be hard to stay on a diet. I mean, anyone who's dealt with weight issues or just, dude, there's so much good food out there, especially nowadays and stuff. And you want to enjoy it, especially when you got money. Like, he's got money now. How do you not enjoy yourself? Especially like, he had a pretty good rookie year and stuff. And you want to, I earned this. I deserve the right to eat. It's not easy. So like, but it is a concern. And yeah, I was texting you and I was thinking about getting a Becton jersey too. And I'm still not 1,000% sold on him yet, because there are those concerns there.
His play, sure, but the weight issues, the injuries, I'm not sure if he's going to be that 10-year Jet. Like, I don't, let's say they draft, John Smith next draft, and he's a really good left tackle, but you move him to right tackle, and then you have to decide between paying him and AVT and Becton. Like, you have to sign 2 of the 3. Like, is Becton that guy based on the injuries? Like, we don't really know.
Was Wirfs your number 2 last year? I'm forgetting. Or 3.
He was my. Well, I had a list for the Jets, and then I had a list
for the
general.
Jets.
For the Jets, Wirfs was my 2, and Wills was my 1.
And Wirfs obviously had an outstanding season. I know he was at right tackle, but
Jack Kenna, who
the super chat,
who then later said we're not going to read the super chat, even though he's been watching the show and we don't address them right away. But must be his first show. I'm sorry, he gave a super chat. Guys,
shout out to you, Jack. Thank you.
Yes. Overall Raiders fan, NFL fans like me want interesting, intelligent chat. Good luck with your team, unless mine.
Unless the Jets are playing the Raiders.
We try to talk film again. This is definitely your first show, but go watch any film review you want. Go watch the Raiders versus the Jets last year if it's interesting to you. Like, that's what the show is about.
Hey, listen, if he's a Raiders fan, he's stuck around this long, he must think that the chat is and the discussion is relatively intelligent, right?
Yeah. So
thanks, Jack.
Yeah, we appreciate it, but this has to be your first show. So the Darnold's team versus Wilson, we'll get into that, and then I guess probably we're going to close it out after that, because you want to watch a Brooklyn Nets playoff game. We talked about this, but we can talk about a topic for a very long time. A lot of these topics, like, I cut it short because we could talk for an hour. Next show, and we're gonna have one with me, Sabo, and Nania probably in a week or two, because I think we're gonna do like once a month now with them too. So I'm gonna do like pretty much every other week. I'm gonna host a live stream, one with Kyle, one with Sabo and Nania. Hey, next show idea. Maybe for 4 voices is too many. What? Oh no, I'm not. No, I was I wasn't suggesting that at all. And plus, by the way, those are the 3 owners of the website. I'm clearly not an owner. So are you even a contributor? I would say other than this show, you got to start writing. You got to put an article. Maybe. I do have a login, so yes, I am a contributor. Listen, I'm coming on here once a month. Yeah, I'm a contributor. But I don't know what your thoughts are about this and how doable, but maybe like for like an away game, we could maybe do like a post game live stream after one of the games this year. And I don't know if the people in the chat would find that interesting, but I'm just throwing an idea out there. So the only thing I will say to that idea is I like to enjoy myself when I go to games. How much intelligent I'm saying football, for after an away game, though, we wouldn't be at the stadium. I still like to enjoy myself during Jets games. No, I know. Okay. Maybe gotcha. We'll discuss. But there is a reason. Like me personally, you try to know your strengths and weaknesses. My weaknesses, I should probably take away my Twitter. During Jets games, I should take away my Twitter. Or before, after, just that whole day, Sundays, take it away, because I say some stupid shit that I delete, the next day. So Sabo said, Jets fans, yes, Kyle's a contributor. Pressure him to writing every chance you get. And somebody said, Joe, your mic position leads to inconsistent volume. It's not my mic position. It's my head movement and me trying to read the chat and then go back and forth. Well, Kyle, maybe you could position the mic like less to the side and more in front of you, and maybe that would help out. People are saying Kyle got to join. Need more Kyle. And then somebody said write some. And I think it's the same person actually said write some stuff. Kyle. Me and Kyle were actually do a show together, but
yeah. Wait, thanks, Tibbs. And yeah.
Somebody.
Hey, listen,
wait, another person.
listen,
Shadow
listen.
Maniac. You know what would be nice? A Kyle article.
Guys, I'm not.
Hold on,
I'm not
another
a
one.
great-
No, I'm gonna. Kyle needs to write for Jets X for show. Jackson, a drunk Joe would be fun. Listen, I think Kyle. I don't know if you'd agree with this. I'm already pretty unfiltered. Me drunk, there's no filter, zero. So,
Yeah, I
I don't know if I should
remember,
put on YouTube.
dude. Back when you used to do, you've hinged yourself a little bit more. Like you were a little bit more unhinged back in your younger days. Like you used to say a lot more nasty things and stuff. I'm not
On
saying
Twitter
dirty
or,
things.
or podcasting.
I'm saying like when you were like podcasting and stuff, like your
Really?
willingness to call out like specific people or things like that, and be nasty. I'm not talking about like specific listeners or things like that, but
I think my Bless Austin takes would argue that point.
that is a good point.
No, I think maybe you're right. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
But I think part of that has come with like being humble, because at the same time, like, because when you're younger, you think you know everything.
Oh, dude.
And I'm speaking from experience. And I think as you obviously have learned a lot more, you're still like, because you said this in a recent show you did, like, I still don't even know like 5% of football or something like that.
Nah.
So
Literally and I'm not like, I'm sure like, and I appreciate everybody who comes in here and all this stuff. But when you really get into the weeds of football, everything you learn, you learn, like, less, like you feel like you know less, because there's so many wrinkles to everything. It's ridiculous. I'm on that place where I try to learn a new coverage, a new term, a new whatever, like at least like 3-4 a month, and just keep stacking them. There is so much to learn in football. It's absurd. Eagle thinks that I want a drunk Robbie Sabo. Yeah, I think like I'm more open than Sabo. So like Sabo, like I've said this on the chat, so I don't really care. And again, relatively unfiltered. But Sabo is more of like a really slow paced, like, yes, I think the Jets are very good type of person. So maybe him like maybe he would speed up his pace and like be a little more joking. Like he's like, hey, Joe, slow pace. How about those Brooklyn Nets? They really stink, man. And then he wonders if I don't get mad about it.
Listen, you saying slow paced, you're using a euphemism to try to say Robbie's boring.
No, because Robbie's smart though.
Well, yeah,
Robbie's smart, but he's very monotone and again, I love Robbie. I'm glad I'm a business partner with him, but he's definitely slower pace and more to the facts. And just Robbie, what do you think about the Jets? The Jets this year? I think they're going to be better. Like that's Robbie.
Straight to the point.
Yeah,
I'm a notoriously slow talker.
Robbie, we're doing it one time. We're gonna give it to the fans. Hey,
dude, fellas, you guys got so many years to catch up to me in age. We'll talk then.
I promise you, I'll probably be even more unfiltered when in a couple of years.
This is true.
I've seen too much shit. So,
we're talking about getting drunk and drunk Joe and drunk Saba, and I was thinking like, oh, tailgate, but then Robbie can't get drunk at a tail. He's a beat writer. He's covering the team.
Yeah, but drunk Saba is better than the other beat writers anyway.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying professionally.
I can't. Sabo can't say that. I probably shouldn't say that, but I will right now. So. Let's see anything in the chat that is somebody said Mike, haha, ironically, that's how I feel since I started watching here. I know more but understand less. Yeah, that's how it's always going to feel, unless you're like Bill Belichick. Sabo rather pause than say props to him. It's good for radio shows. Yeah, Robbie's top notch. Robbie's cool and calculated. The Lord Sabo is speaking. Robbie, you're getting a lot of praise. Somebody said, if you don't know 5% of football, I'm screwed. Yeah. Let's see. Thank you, Lord Sabo, for Jets X Factor. Yeah, man. Like, just in terms of like the Jet X stuff, and we're gonna get into some Sam Darnold versus Wilson's rookie teams. Sabo and Nanya started it, and then speaking for them because I know I was the first recruit of the website, and then eventually turned into ownership with us three. So super pumped. JetX is we're going to take off. That's for sure. This is a year one or 1 year, a little bit plus of JetX. It's going to It's going to be really good. So what did I start with this God Sabo stuff? Sabo's been the voice from above for a while because he's here, but he's not here. So let's get into Darnold's team versus Wilson's team. We'll talk in like kind of general stuff first, and then we'll get into like some position comparisons. Like, what do you think about what Wilson's were walking into versus what Darnold was walking into in year one? We're talking about the roster, but obviously it's also worth mentioning, like you said, with the Darnold jersey, the situation he was walking into, you weren't as confident as you were with Wilson's situation. So I think GM, head coach also get a thumbs up. And I remember specifically, well, maybe I don't remember specifically, maybe that's a lie, but I do remember us at a point mentioning that we are not overly pumped with Darnold walking into a situation where we knew the head coach was most likely going to be fired. I remember saying that. That was one of my big problems with not firing Bowles.
I wanted him out for several reasons.
Because you don't want we had a really good feeling it was going to be Bowles for 1 year fired, and like, why not just fire him now, and then bring in that new coordinator for him to learn under and not have to change systems.
Yeah, definitely. So you want to just, where do you want to start with the comparison? You want to start like one position group or
hit it where, let's talk about GM coach first. Go ahead.
Yeah. GM, dude. All right. So just check this out. And I know that the Jets social media is trying to get a lot better and stuff. I can't remember ever when the Jets social media was hyping up the GM prior to Joe Douglas. Can you? Were they ever hyping up Mike Maccagnan? Were they ever hyping up John Idzik?
After the first year where he won GM of the year.
Okay, sure. But Joe Douglas has been on two, non-winning teams so far, yet he's still getting this hype. I mean, that's telling you something. And we knew that he was widely,
it's about the approach versus the roster and the results. It's really the approach.
Exactly. And just the fact that they basically let him pick Saleh, like they let him lead that search, so to speak, just goes to show you how much they believe in him. So if we're talking GM, I don't even think it's close, despite the fact that Maccagnan got executive of the year. And I think the biggest thing that separates Maccagnan from Douglas is just the fact that Douglas knows how to work with people a lot better. And again, I'm going to point to the reports that Maccagnan just, and I respect him in this regard. He was a film grinder. All right. And I respect a GM who's a film grinder. I don't want a GM. I don't want a guy who's literally the last guy who chooses what that card is going to be of the player on draft day. I don't want my GM to be a guy who doesn't know how to evaluate film. All right. So I respect Maccagnan that he was willing to do that. But if you're not surrounding yourself with good scouts and good front office guys, and if you're not talking to your coach and getting some semblance of an idea of what your coach wants, you're obviously a GM that is ill-equipped for your job. So Joe Douglas definitely gets the nod in that regard.
What about Todd Bowles versus Robert Saleh?
Again, with head coaches, it's tough to say, but and listen, let's be honest. Let's not just try to be Jet homers, Joe. Todd Bowles was extremely well praised before he came to the Jets.
I praised him based on what I heard. And I will be transparent. What I know now, 2021 versus 2015, Joe, right? He's hired. Very, very different.
2015 was his first
very,
season.
very, 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 very different. So I praised him, and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe Bowles could be a good head coach in a second stint. I really kind of doubt that. He was very unwilling to ever change Casey Rogers as defensive coordinator and stuff. And he seemed like he was very stubborn. And some guys are just meant to be coordinators and stuff. But I will say this in terms of, and you kind of got to take some of these things with a grain of salt. Like, what does some beat reporter know? Or what does some NFL insider know? I mean, they're just talking about based on what other guys are saying. But it seemed like to most people around the league, whoever they were, it did seem like Saleh was the number one coaching candidate this time around.
And actually got hired, yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of Bowles, people were definitely high on him, and we're thinking he was one of the best coaching candidates. But I don't remember there being a general consensus that like this was the top guy. And one thing where you kind of got to give a nod to Saleh is he's a lot younger. So there's a lot more room for growth in that regard as well.
And we're talking about like hope too. And like, obviously he could turn out to be bad, but I don't see it. I don't see him being terrible unless it's like scheme and stuff. And like, maybe it's like timeouts and something like that. Like Bowles was historically awful with calling timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm going to give the head coaching
just
nod.
When to throw the challenge flag. I mean,
it was bad. It was really bad. Like, okay, you know, you're down 12 points with 9 minutes left. Let's kick a field goal. It's like, what? Like, what are you doing? You know? So there's a lot of that stuff.
And I want to be fair to Bowles too. Players did like Bowles, right?
Yeah.
Players did like him. I mean, Jamal Adams, Marcus May, these guys will all speak highly. I don't remember any, like, I mean, maybe there were some, but, and I'm not one of the guys that's like reads every beat reporter's article. That's definitely not me. So I don't know all the inside locker room drama shit. That's not my thing. But players did like Bowles, but I also think that Saleh definitely has an edge above in that regard too. Like he seems like he's a dude who's just really big on like family values and getting to know you as a person. It goes above and beyond what you can just do on the field. And that shit matters for players. And also listen, and my dad overhypes this stuff a lot. And I love you, Dad, if you're listening. I don't know if he is. My dad always like, they finally got a coach who's hyped up on the sideline. Bowles and Gase, they were just like ghosts on the sideline. I'm like, well, you know,
yeah, Rex Ryan.
Like it matters a little bit. Like I ain't gonna lie, like, you know, but that also just kind of shows like if your coach is like that, that's probably going to get your players hyped and stuff too. But you know, like let's say your team's getting your ass kicked and you're still doing that, then players might think you're a joke. So, you know, but that matters a little bit too. But I would say in terms of player relationship and building, you'd probably want to give Saleh a nod in that regard.
Oh yeah, in terms of like how he talks about players and contracts, like he knows how to support them. Like yeah, like you literally had like when's the last time we've had a player who specifically said they came here because of the coach, like Carl Lawson did, you know. But before we get into more of that, just want to address the chat a little bit. Some people are saying we need some God Sabo merch. Somebody said, or Jackson said, Joe, if you do a drunk post game with all the emotions, then you can have a Joe Blew It segment where you go back over all the stuff you said and I would tune in. If you guys really want it, there will be one live stream this year where I will do it as you're asking. Will it be great content? Will Kyle have to carry the show? Maybe, but if you really want it, then we could do it. You have to throw some super chat.
I can't imagine that you're that incoherent, Joe. I can't imagine that.
No, it's really not. Like I think I've already had 4 right now, but it's not like that's nothing. But yeah, you know, we could do it one time. We'll see. Okay. It's just gonna be a lot dumber takes than me forgetting words and stumbling over my words. That's really all. I'm not gonna be like, oh, you know, Wes Austin's good, bro. Other than that, it's people praising Sabo with the Kerbeck content.
Blitz blitzed.
Blitz. Somebody put that in the chat. That's great. I feel like blitzed is more with weed though. I'm not gonna be doing that, obviously. Eagle Fang said the Jets' social media team is so bad.
They are. No, they are. They're getting better. They're getting better.
I feel like they've improved. Maybe I'm so used to bad.
They've improved, but I'm just, you know, and I followed a lot of Patriots and Bills and
maybe it's just we're already hyped about the team, so we overrate it.
But a lot of the Jets stuff was really cringe and stuff, and I get it. But them hyping Darnold up after like shitty games and stuff last year, that really irked me and stuff.
Mike Blitz. That is top notch. That was we have the Raiders fan who keeps mentioning the Jets need to support their quarterback. Listen again, you're a Raiders fan, but since 2007, like the Jets drafted Brick and whatever it's called, Brick and Mangold in what 2006? Yeah, 2006. Since that point until Douglas, they didn't draft the first round lineman, and they only the highest pick other than that was like Winters in the 3rd, Vlad Dukas in the 2nd. Minus that was all like 4th, 5th, 6th round picks.
And Vlad Dukas was a late 2nd.
They drafted Becton in the 1st last year. They drafted AVT. They drafted literally 4 of their first picks of our offense this year. I'm sure some of that had to do with Wilson. So they're supporting him 100% this year. I feel so much more comfortable with them going into that or with this staff and how they've surrounded Wilson than I did with any of the quarterbacks of recent past with Sanchez to Christian Hackenberg to Geno Smith. We do have one caller. We have to make this pretty short because we only have a couple minutes left. And I do want to talk about some of the, unless you want to talk about the roster after we talk about we'll do that after. We'll start the next show with Darlington versus Wilson at the actual positions, but we'll hit the caller. So again, being transparent, what my calling studio says, and I think it's actually funny. So we don't have to ever edit this. The screen says, bring Horseman. I just want to talk about the offense, Mai. So you want to talk about Horseman, caller? What is up?
I just want to talk about the offensive line.
Oh, go ahead.
I think the offensive line has significantly improved the past couple of years.
Okay, yeah. Kyle, anything? Yes. Listen, the Jets had the 32nd ranked line 2 years ago. Last year, I would say it was probably low 20s. And I don't care where they ranked. They're probably low 20s. Now this year, Kyle, I think we could argue that they're going to be maybe average, maybe slightly above average, depending on obviously health and how AVT adjusts and if Fant continues the upward trajectory and all of that stuff. But yeah, they've significantly upgraded the offensive line. That goes without saying.
Dude, for a period of about 5 years straight, they had a bottom 5 offensive line. Period. Like there was a stretch for like 5 years where they didn't have like a plus starter anywhere at any of the given positions on the offensive line.
Those couple of years, like Kelvin Beachum was the best starter.
Yes.
And he was below average. Like, let's be honest. Like, he didn't have the athleticism, the power. And then you had James Carpenter, who was hyped up. And James Carpenter was massively overrated by Jets fans. Massively.
Hey, well, he got good PFF grades for a year or two, Joe.
IDGAF.
So, yeah. So they're definitely massively upgraded. Now, that doesn't mean, like, slower roll as Jets fans. Are they a top 5 unit all of a sudden? Not anywhere close, but them
being average, which, average based on numbers is 16. If they're the 16th best offensive line this year, that's a massive improvement from literally the last 10 years, minus 2010.
Let me reiterate something that Joe said earlier in the show about 2 or so hours ago, or maybe not even an hour ago, the depth that they have on the interior. I mean, like, you're talking about Cam Clark, probably not going to be a starter early on. I mean, maybe he will, who knows? But and then Feeney, Feeney, no one's going to act like he's good, but he's got a lot of starts under his belt. But as a backup, you'll take that, right? So, I mean, they also got you're talking, if McGovern can kind of, hit what his potential was, what we saw his last year in Denver, you're talking about an above average center, all right? Mekhi Becton definitely has the potential to be a top 5 left tackle.
And he already is a top at least 15, if not top 10.
Vera
Tucker, when he's on the field.
Vera Tucker, I will not be stunned if he's a top 10 left guard this year. I'm not saying I am not projecting that to happen at all. I'm just saying, will we be shocked? No. Right? Now, you just compare, and then Fant. Fant is somewhere in the below average range.
20 to 24.
Yeah, but when you're comparing that to 29 versus 32 in terms of right tackles, which is what they had before with Shell and some of these other jokes.
Breno Giacomini.
And they had another clown out there too.
Wayne Hunter.
There you go.
You mentioned one of the sayings, I think the game of inches versus millimeters. I think I also say a lot. There's a difference between a bad starter and a bad backup. And Feeney may be a bad starter, but he's not a bad backup. So
when you just factor in all of that right there, I mean, that is a massive upgrade. So yeah, you're right.
Caller, anything to add to that, or any other questions you want to ask?
No, not really. It's just I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the offensive line.
Okay. I hope we answered your question.
Dude, offensive line is fun to watch.
Yeah, you did.
If you guys in the chat,
hope to hear you back soon,
dude. You guys who are big diehard football fans nowadays, if you're not watching coaches film, I don't know what you're doing. You got to start, and you learn so much more from watching offensive line than you do because you can't really see much with offensive line play from broadcast angles. But dude, when it's good, it's fun to watch, and we finally have, what were you saying?
At least at the minimum, come here to watch it. I know a lot of people, and we have 97 people in here. At a certain point, we're like 200, whatever. I know it's been 3 hours. I know there are people who watch the stream who do not watch the YouTube videos. Probably at least a couple of people. At least come for those 2 hours, 2-3 hours. I'm going to break down the games. Like, a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about what actually happens in the game. So I break down at least 30 to 60 plays of each game. That will do. Eagle Fang says we want a live stream with Lord Sabo, Kyle, and Joe. What about Nania? Nania needs a drink too.
Well, maybe he didn't say Nania because you're like, a stream with 4 people won't work.
Shadow said the Jets' social media is consistently hyping the team up. If they didn't, they'd be fired.
Every team does that. So let's just be honest. But some teams are way better at it than others. And let me just say, as someone who's followed the Dolphins' social media for years, dude, the Dolphins are way better at hyping their team up. And just like the quality of the photographs they put out and stuff, and the special effects that they put has been way better for years than the Jets. Just to be honest.
Says if you ever hear Joe praise Bless Austin, call 911. I think that's something we talked about before. Let's see if there's anything else in here. Somebody said Breno Giacomini. How do you guys get your college tape? It's top secret. We cannot tell anybody because that's for whatever reason, college tape is not available. And if you rat out the source, they could get cut off. You do not want to give away your college film.
Yeah.
Said
but,
you really
but I'll say
watch
this. I will say this though. More and more people are getting their hands on it. A couple of years ago, it was even harder to get. So,
yeah,
maybe in a couple of years, college will just realize, there's nothing we can do to stop the leak anymore. Let's just make it public and we'll start charging people money for it. And they'll realize that they can make more. Who knows? I don't know.
I would pay a decent amount if I didn't already have what we have. Said, y'all really got to watch the breakdowns. Yes, please. We do 2 live streams a month. I put out 4 film shows last week, which, by the way, the Hamza one, I talked about it, and I spoke about how some people disliked the last one because of maybe it was Sherwood and not overhyping him, or maybe it was a Knicks hate. But then after that, like 100 and something people liked it. So I appreciate the real fans out there who are going to support the channel no matter what. And we're only going to improve too, 100%. I'll improve personally. The website will improve. Stick around. This is we're on month 15 of the website, 16. We're really new.
Wow. It's only been that long. Wow.
It was like March, February, right?
I thought it might've been closer to 2 years.
No,
but I'm clearly wrong.
Yeah. So, let's, anything else? Eagle said in the chat, he basically is saying that the Eagles offensive line is terrible. Left tackle, Austin Jackson, 84th of 89.
You mean the Dolphins offensive line?
Who did I say?
You said Eagles because Eagle fan.
Yeah. So he basically
Freudian slip.
We're going left tackle or right tackle. I'm not going to say the names. It'll take longer. 84 to 89, 79 of 82, 36 of 38, 76 of 86, and Robert Hunt is 53 of 89 plus second round right tackle Liam Eichenberg. So yeah, the Jets, if they're going to beat the Dolphins, it's about that pass rush because the Dolphins offensive line, like, listen, it's another thing that I have a problem with them is like, where was Slater picked? 8, 9, 10, 11? No, he was actually picked a little bit later, right?
Yeah. He definitely wasn't top 10.
Yeah, he was like 12
something
to the
like
Chargers,
that.
Right? Like 11, 12,
so.
whatever it was to the Chargers.
I believe so.
And the fact, like, that's another one of my things. Like, you have a young rookie quarterback who struggled last year when he was in. Now you're going to draft a receiver instead of a offensive lineman. Same thing with the Bengals. Like, the Bengals are trying to change their narrative, all this stuff, Zach Taylor, whatever. Like, even if you had, not Zach Taylor, even if you had Jamar Chase, like, relatively higher over Penny Sewell, like, the fact that they drafted Chase over Sewell if I was a Bengals fan, I would be, and I didn't watch either one of their film to be transparent, but like if they were even on the same playing field, I would be furious as a Bengals fan. Furious. Because like, yeah, great. Like you've seen all the memes of like, guys sacking Joe Burrow. How is he going to throw the ball? Like I hated that pick.
Let me give you a little bit of pushback because, sometimes I know I praise you a lot and stuff because I learn a lot from your work and stuff too. But generally, I would prefer an offensive lineman there too. And I'm not going to act like I watched a whole lot of either of those guys. But this is my general thoughts about this. And I talked about my dad with this a couple of times. I feel like Chase's floor is so much higher than Sewell's personally, because Sewell's got really short arms and some people are even projecting he's a little bit on the heavier side. How well is he going to move in space and things like that? You wonder. Versus Chase was just absolutely dominant in college football as a teenager, right? And he already has that relationship with Burrow. So what is the failure rate of Jamar Chase versus what's the failure rate of Penei Sewell? And they both fill needs for that team. Like Burrow obviously needs throwing options too. AJ Green is clearly washed up at this point in his career. So I get it. And I know Nania clearly disagrees with that too. I know he made some kind of funny meme about it. I know Robbie's thoughts about protecting a young offensive quarterback. So I might be the only guy who is not hating on that pick from Jets X Factor, but I didn't hate that pick for the Bengals. I'm not sure that it's what I would have done, but I don't think we could shit on the Bengals for that, in my opinion.
Do you have a guy who, like, in their team photo for the New Jerseys has like a big scar down his knee because they had to repair his leg because he got smacked way too much in year one, and they bring in some scrub free agents. I don't know who they brought in at offensive line, and you're addressing that problem with, let's get another wide receiver, because that helps in my quarterback getting hit.
It does help a little bit.
Okay, so he's going to get open quicker, so he makes quicker reads and throws the ball. Don't give me that shit, Kyle. You're smarter than that. I know it.
But okay, yeah. I mean, it's not that simple, but yeah, I mean, sure, it does help a little bit though.
Oh my God. Somebody said first show I watched was B's Had Perriman review. If you're talking about my Perriman review, that was relatively recent. That was another pick. I'm higher on Perriman than other people are. Like Perriman when he played with Flacco is Perriman. Perriman when he played with Darnold is Perriman because of Darnold. There's a reason Perriman was a lot more effective with Flacco than Darnold. That's all I'm going to say.
And that was fun in those couple of games,
dude. Evident. Like he was open in the games that Darnold just didn't come to him. So people always trash that signing. He was better than people thought he was.
J.C. Jackson, he took him to school.
Eagle said Joe Burrow wanted Jamar Chase. He was demanding the Bengals to make that pick. I blame Burrow for that pick. If that's the case, then that's kind of crazy. But
and again though, Joe, as an organization, don't you want to, dude? I mean, this is also a very unique situation, Joe. How often do you get 2 top 5 picks back-to-back years where you can draft a top 5 quarterback and then draft his perennial all-pro-ish type of receiver that he had so much success with in college? That is a very rare circumstance too. And if this quarterback is banging the table for this guy and you tell him no, I mean, like, is it really fair to really shit on the Bengals for that pick?
And does it matter if he's out again with injury? Because does it matter?
But is Penei? Are you that convinced that Penei Sewell is going to save him? He's still only one offensive lineman. And are we that convinced that he's bust proof?
Oh, we know that we know how big of a difference one offensive lineman can make 100%. And we preface it by saying that we didn't watch really either of them like in depth. So can I say that? No, but I know that he was a guy who was, in my opinion, probably from what I did see, and it happens every year, everybody's overhyped. Like Sewell was a generational prospect at offensive line. I didn't see that from what I've watched. But overall, he's still pretty highly rated. So it's not like you were reaching. So yeah, I'll never.
He definitely was not a reach where he went for sure.
So no, if I was a Bengals fan, based on what I know, I would be upset. You don't know receivers in your offensive line is shit, and you have 2 similar rated prospects in my opinion, regardless of the school they went to, because that's a little bit overhyped in my opinion. Like, oh, Tristan Hodge is gonna do well with Darnold or Dax Milne, all this stuff. Like, it doesn't really matter that much. It does, but it doesn't.
Tell that to Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne.
I am unfamiliar.
Well, you hear Peyton Manning talk about how Reggie Wayne, like he knows exactly when he takes this drop, he's going to be in this exact place at this exact time. Like there is something to, you know how important timing of routes are and things like that. In this situation, let me throw the back shoulder. Or in this situation, when I scramble out and I want you to be in this location. I mean, there is something to, or how guys communicate when they're off the field. And like, listen, let me praise Ryan Fitzpatrick here and stuff. Listen, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick was totally overhyped by the Jets beat. Let's just be honest when he was here. But there's a reason why Fitzpatrick has been in the league as long as he had and started as many games as he had. And Brandon Marshall would say Fitzpatrick was the best quarterback he ever played with. And Fitzpatrick was known for sending play clips and stuff like in the wee hours of the night. Hey, listen, on this play, I want to see you do this thing and X, Y, and Z. I mean, listen, if players got that type of relationship too, you can't always just replicate that. I mean, not every guy's into that type of stuff. So, I don't know. Clearly you think I'm an idiot for defending this, but whatever. I'll defend it.
Yeah, you're an idiot. So going to the chat real quick. If you want to drop a question really quick, we're gonna log off in like 2 seconds. Jackson said, I know you guys, and I appreciate this. I know you guys hear it enough, but your content is crazy awesome. It's not that watered down crap. Don't go Hollywood on us. When you guys blow up, it's gonna happen. The content's way too good.
What would be going Hollywood? Like not answering fans anymore or something?
I don't know. Yeah, if you're talking about like the NFL Network and stuff like watered down, like I think a lot of those guys, like NFL Network or ESPN or even podcasters for the Jets, like Michael Kay, like whoever it is, or other I'm not going to call out specific names, but like if you ask them, okay, what's cover 2 versus cover 3, like what are the responsibilities? They're going to stutter and deflect and not know the answer. And that's the people you're going to for opinions on football and what they should have done in this game and, being angry about them losing and stuff like that. Like they can't tell you what the defense is, like at least to some extent. I think that's slightly absurd, but somebody asked Tevin Jenkins' thoughts. Again, didn't really watch him. I wanted the Jets to take him initially at 34, but he clearly dropped for a reason, maybe some injury problems, some character concerns that were brought up. Somebody said,
and then once you watched Elijah Moore, you're like, okay, I'm definitely happy that they passed up.
and listen, Keelan Cole not on contract 2022.
Dude, we didn't even mention him at all tonight.
Who?
Cole. I'm just saying, and then he's another option that they have for the offense. I'm looking forward to your review for him.
I would have to look at other reviews or other teams. He is a top 3 fifth receiver in the NFL.
How would you compare? And I know this is not a fair comparison because stylistically, I don't even think they're similar. But just in terms of overall ceiling and just how good they are, how good do you think Cole is in comparison to what your thoughts were about Perriman last year when they signed Perriman? Like, obviously, I'm pretty sure you're going to say Perriman's definitely higher in your book. I'm guessing. But
you're talking about ceiling?
Yeah, or what you think they can bring to the offense, how big of an impact you can make. It's a kind of a broad question. I don't even know.
Yeah, but to say it's almost so broad I don't know how to answer. Perriman definitely had
you liked both of them.
Yeah. But Perriman had the more athletic traits. Like he had the physical capability to get deep. He was faster. He had a bigger body. Contested catches. Like I know Cole ranks out high, but I think some of his contested catches were not as contested as maybe some of Perriman's were. So I think Perriman has a more physical upside, but I think Cole from a down-to-down basis is more consistent with route running and things like that. Me and Marcus and I talked about it, whereas a lot of Perriman's releases were too similar. He always hop, step. That's all he did.
Yeah.
Where Cole offers a little bit more versatility. Maybe they play the slot, play outside, but he doesn't have the physical upside of Perriman, but he's also more consistent.
I thought it was a very good answer for a kind of a shitty question. And Fang, I don't know why you're laughing at me for the Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison thing. You just tagged me and laughed.
Okay, let's see. Any last questions? Islanders win. Cool with it. Islanders, and they're playing the Bruins. Listen, I don't hate the Islanders as a Devils fan.
But you hate the Rangers though, right?
It's another one of those little brother situations. Oh, the Devils, who cares about the Devils? They play in New Jersey. So I don't like Rangers fans.
What round is this?
And the second round.
Okay.
So, and a lot of Rangers fans, I remember arguing with, we have fun at games. I almost got into like let's just say a very huge argument with a Rangers fan, and we were talking about since we were born, 28 years old, would you rather have been a Devils fan or a Rangers fan? And the Devils won 3 championships since I've been a kid, and the Rangers have won 0. So the Devils, obviously.
Oh, the Rangers won in '94. You were alive then.
It was 94. Okay, so I was born in 93. Regardless, so since I was a kid, still Devils because they've won 3. But regardless, any other questions in here? More. Try to listen to Carton today. Unlistenable. They have no idea what they're talking about with football compared to independent YouTube guys like you. Those guys are jokes, dude. Carton, K, all those guys have no idea what they're talking about. You said Reggie Wayne, Kyle Smith. That's all he said. As long as we all hate the Flyers. I hate Philadelphia fans in general.
Listen, I meant to say Marvin Harrison. That's who I was thinking of in my head, but I could understand why I made that slip. I mean, Peyton Manning played at least 10 years with Reggie Wayne too. And
he's saying Marvin Harrison had more of a connection with.
That's who I meant to say, but listen, if we're not being honest, Reggie Wayne had a great connection with Peyton Manning as well.
Yes, we all hate the Flyers. So I actually liked the Eagles as a kid until I learned more because like Brian Dawkins, my favorite player ever, but they're fans, the only fans I've seen like boo and throw beer at players getting carted out on a stretcher and things like that. Like they're terrible. There we go, Steven. Rangers suck, Flyers swallow means he's a Devils fan.
That's like a Devils chant or something. I was unaware.
Yeah, they chant that at the game. Somebody said, who's the best shuffler in terms of the NFL? I can't like I always say like he needs to get an extra shuffle into the line of scrimmage. I can't think off the top of my head who's the best shuffler in the NFL.
Shuffler?
Jalen Ramsey?
Dude, maybe at the peak of his career, he used to be with the Chargers. Now he's with the Niners. I'm forgetting his name. Little short dude. You know who I'm talking about.
Hold on. Say that again.
Short cornerback with the Niners. I think he played at TCU.
Oh, Jason Verrett.
Yeah.
He's a good shuffler.
Yeah. Especially in his peak, before all the injuries and stuff. I don't know.
And I know Eagle said he's a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. If I get into hockey to stay local,
and he's a Magic fan too. Is he live in Florida?
Yeah, he said he's in Florida, and he says he swears it's hotter up north because Jersey has the most humidity. It's so freaking humid here. Like it was funny when I went to Vegas. I walked outside, or I was in Arizona. Actually, no, it was in Arizona or Vegas.
Yeah,
I forget. I walked outside. It was like 95. I'm like, this feels like 65 in Jersey. Like this is nothing. So those people who bitch about the heat out west they don't understand what heat is. Do you think the top 3 draft picks will sign on time or holdouts? I will say they sign on time, I guess. The 3 unsigned picks, I don't think they'll hold out. Pay cut. We'll talk about Crowder next time. Verrett. Okay.
I think Wilson loves football way too much
to hold out.
And I know that the agents really get majority of the say when it comes to that stuff, and oftentimes the players will yield. But if the player's saying, "Hey, listen, I really want to sign, get this shit done," the agent will get something done.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I was down. Cal, anything else to close out? Somebody said, "God, yeah, Jersey humidity." You will, unless I am like obligated to outside. From pretty much May till September, I prefer to be inside doing nothing because unless I'm at a pool or a barbecue, I hate the beach. I hate the summer. I hate the traffic. I hate the people who come here. I hate everything about summer. With that being said, Kyle, anything to close out because it is 9/18.
Fall is my favorite season. And a lot of that has to do with football.
Football, hockey. Typically hockey just started. Basketball just started. Baseball playoffs. Great in terms of the humidity, the temperature. It's all great. Yeah. Fall is great. November is like the best month of the year for me. October, November, then spring. I like winter. Summer sucks. Somebody says they're in Miami. I've been to Florida multiple times. I think Jersey is worse than Florida.
But you've been to Miami though.
No, I will be in Miami eventually
I heard Tampa. I mean, like Florida in general, but I heard Tampa is very humid as well.
Oh, cool. We have some people in Florida. Again, I will be at every single stadium in the NFL. I've already been to a couple, but that's my goal over time. I will be at every single stadium.
What's your total number so far?
Bills, Colts, Arizona.
Have you been to Foxborough yet?
No, Foxborough. I was literally waiting until they sucked because I did not want to go there with Brady.
What?
No, I don't want to see the Jets lose there. I've been to a couple. Indianapolis, I say that was an awesome one. So I think like 4 or 5 or 6, but I'll go to all of them. I have like 24 more to go. I have a lot more years to go.
I thought it would have been way more than 5 or 6.
No, 5 or 6. I just started a couple of years ago, and then like getting into the house, the
Did you
police
say Tennessee?
academy. Tennessee, yeah, I've been to Tennessee. I didn't mention that. I've been to Tennessee. So Tennessee, Indianapolis, Arizona.
You said
obviously
that
the
stadium's
Jets.
not that nice, right?
It was okay. Indianapolis is better, in my opinion. We have somebody said sending love from Los Angeles. I'm trying to set our Jets fan club out there. When I go to Los Angeles for the Chargers and the Rams, which I will be out there eventually, make sure you're still listening to the show, and I will 100% come to your fan club or your bar or wherever you hit out there. So tell me you come to SoFi. I will be there. Keep listening. I'll make it public. Kyle, any last words?
Nah. Flew by. It was fun. How much is left to that Nets playoff game?
It's 85-64, 2 minutes left in the third quarter as far as I can tell. So
still.
I'm not gonna say
Okay. Well,
anything.
I guess we're good on my end.
Okay. Appreciate you guys for listening. We will be back the next, again, it's not a surprise, Eagle Fang. The first Monday of every single month, we will be here. Myself, Nania, and Sabo will be here probably in a week or two. We'll figure out a time schedule for that. Other than that, a lot of exciting stuff coming, with OTAs and camps. Well, not camp, preseason starting soon, the season coming around, Jets games. I would like to getting together with Kyle. If any of you guys are going to a game again, if you don't have, if you're a fan in Pennsylvania, you don't know anybody out here, nobody to go with, I will 100% meet you.
I'm tailgating with Joe. Home opener. I'll be there.
All right. Appreciate you guys, and we will see you soon.
All right, 1 sec.
It's okay. I don't care to talk right now because this is the point last time where people were watching like awkward because we were 20 seconds down. So we could talk while it closes out. I don't care.
Home opener. I'll be there.
You're gonna be
now,
there. Kyle.
And now I hear the
Appreciate you guys, and we
That's
will
funny.
see you soon. It's a thing. I've always it's listening back. It's always like you hate hearing your own voice type thing.